Okay, well, here we are. This is John Erickson at Advanced Ball Striking, and I've got a great guest today. Mike, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Name is Mike Mangiaracina. They call me Monty. Not many people could say my last name growing up. The same happened to Dad. That's why he shortened it to Monty. So some of my past students don't know the name Monty from the north, but in South Florida, everybody called me Monty. Some never didn't even know my first name. They just said Monty.
And your last name is pronounced?
Mangiaracina.
Okay,
So
Mangiaracina.
so
Got
I
that right.
turned professional in '86, probably much like you. I
And
think
we're
we're
the
the
same age. We're both
yeah we're the
61,
same
right?
age. Yep.
Yeah.
And
Well, you look better than I do.
I just keep moving. So,
So what's interesting about Mike here is Mike was a student of the great Bill Melhorn. And his father Mike's father played on the tour in the 1960s, and they were all mentored by Bill Melhorn, which for anyone that's serious about golf swings and instruction and Hogan and all that stuff would know that name. So I'll just kind of let you talk about that a little bit.
sure. I have two siblings, and they were exposed to golf, but I guess they didn't love it as much as I did. Yeah, Dad was under Melhorn's wings 10 years before I was born. So when I was born, as soon as I can walk and talk, that was my teacher, my slash grandfather figure, because my grandfather passed when I was 5. And I spent countless days, months, weeks, years with Bill. And, it's funny because the way I teach at Monty's Golf, I make sure not to edit or alter Bill's information. I pretty much can recite and still hear his voice and uh, everything I do. And what's funny is when I was about 12, 13 years old, I had a golf swing and I don't even know how I got it. Bill wasn't as detailed as my dad and myself. He would trick you into a golf swing. He would just give me that grass whip and tell me to cut grass. He'd take me over by a banyan tree and have me sledgehammer the back of it. He'd keep a baseball bat on the driving range and make me throw up fungos and ask me to hit fly balls, line drives. What was most important to him, and I think the most valuable thing I got from growing up with Bill, was his saying that the body achieves what the mind believes. And he was very strict not to allow me or any of his students get too conscious of any mechanics. In fact,
So real quick, just for people that
yeah.
don't know about Bill Melhorn, can you just tell us a
Oh,
little bit
sure.
about? I mean, we
Sure.
know,
So,
you and I know, but just for your typical person that's not familiar with Bill
absolutely. A
Melhorn.
lot of people don't know who he is because he was an outspoken guy. I think he told the PGA off and quit the PGA for many decades. He didn't win a major. He won the Western Open, which was considered a major, and he won the Met Open back then, which was a major then. He won 43 times between 1920 and 1930. But in 1920, he's only 22 years old, and he's designing clubs by hand, out of the hickory and the forged heads. They'd fly those in, but they'd make the hickory shafts and the hickory heads, the persimmon heads. He was making clubs for Hillsbrook and Bradsby. Nobody knows this, but he came up with the numerical system for numbering golf clubs when he was there. Before that, it was all nicknames: Mashy, Mashy, Niblick, Spoon. He's the one who numbered them. He was on the first Ryder Cup team. I think he was the leading money winner 3 of his 10 years, and the top 10 the rest of the years. He was a horrible, 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 horrible putter. When I say horrible, Hogan tells a story of watching Bill hit it 6 feet from the hole in two, and then play his fourth shot out of the bunker. That's how bad he'd yip it right off the green. That's how bad he was at putting. But Paul Runyon will tell you stories that he watched Mehlhorn hit 22 greens, and the newspaper reporter said, "What do you mean? There's only 18 holes." He said, "Yeah, but he hit all the 18 greens in regulation and all the par fives in two." So he was extremely long, and he was known as deadly, deadly accurate straight.
Wild
That
Bill, right?
Yeah, Wild Bill Melhorn, and it wasn't because he was crazy. It was because of the wildly low scores he would shoot. He had he had the 4 day scoring record for 17 years that it stood.
Now,
Yeah, he
is
was.
it is it true? I've heard this about that that Bill was the first to propose the more compact head on an iron. That so Because if you look at the clubs from the 1920s and 30s,
He
even
did
into the
make that.
40s, the heads were they were longer.
Yeah,
And
he did make heel to toe shorter irons.
oh yeah, heel to toe shorter irons and brought that. I'm not sure what company would that have been. McGregor that made those first irons.
I think it was Hillsbrick and Bradsby.
Okay, that came up with a more compact head. And from what I understand, that Bill Melhorn was directly responsible for that, which is
Sure.
really the design of the modern golf club, the
Yeah.
modern iron.
Yeah, I mean, the blade I'm playing is the Mizuno 221. I remember playing my first set of irons was the McGregor MT blackface irons. Then I had Hogan PCs. I really, really missed the Spalding Tour Edition, that little blade that they made
Yep,
for a little bit.
yeah,
But
that was with the bird on the ball.
yes,
Yeah,
I always enjoyed Mizuno. I didn't like that they came from the factory flat, 2 degrees flat. They felt always flat, and I didn't like that little bit of offset they put in there. Well, the set I have, that hosel straight with the leading edge, and I love that. I just love that look. I never was the guy who went to the cavity back when they came out. I
yeah,
remember when
neither did
Ping
I.
came. Yeah.
We're cut from the same cloth, you know.
No, we were.
We are.
Yeah. Every
Yeah,
time we talk, I feel like I'm talking to myself. So
I know.
uh, I think you are a little bit more of an accomplished player than I. I was the guy who had it all and was given every opportunity and didn't get as far as I everybody thought I would. Um, and we all know that there's many things in life that can alter your course. But
Sure.
I can look in the mirror and say I gave my best, and for whatever reason, I missed by a shot here and there many times. Um, but hey, it's not over till it's over. I'm still trying. I had to
So
take 10 years.
getting back to Bill
Yeah,
Melhorn. So
let's do that.
now, so he, was a great player on the tour, and really at the end of the Hickory era, and then when the steel shafts just started to come in the early 1930s, right?
Right.
Would have been
Remember they
like
were
before the Masters started
yeah, and they were coating them with a
to make
brown
them look like wood.
with even grain in it.
Yeah,
And
that's right. Yeah, I got some of those.
everybody that follows me knows this, but any new watchers, you'll laugh. I could pretty much have any sandwich in the world that's being produced, and I prefer and I choose my Wilson R90. That's from 1934. I've never had a sandwich as
Not
heavy.
to
I've
be
never had one as soft, and the bounce is perfect. And I think every sandwich since then has been trying to duplicate that R90, and they just can't duplicate the alloy or the housel's like this long.
Yeah. And I carry one in my bag too. And it's
Oh
not the one that they made later that said original. The one that
no, no,
says
no!
original is not the original,
That's
right?
crap. That's crap. It
Those are
looks
crap.
different. It feels
Those are
different, and
crap
it's crap.
stuff.
I'm talking about in my bag is a club that's almost 100 years old. It's the 1934 version that Saracen made, and that's the exact club in my bag.
That's what I've got. I hate always using that word, the original, because then people will see the one that
Yeah,
says
they go
original.
on eBay and they say, "Hey, they're all over the place." No, 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 no.
Yeah, no.
Anything that says the original is not the original.
My my teacher in one of my teachers in college, Greg McCatton, he offered to buy that club off me for I don't know, like $500 or something, like back in the
Yeah,
'80s. And I was like,
back in
no,
this back in the '70s, if you could find one, they were 1,500.
yeah.
Every tour
Like I
player
said,
wanted it on a
I
90.
didn't get a deal off me then.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and the thing that's unique about those, really is the weight.
Yes.
They're so much heavier than
Yes.
sandwiches now, right?
Yes.
And hitting out of kind of sand that would be, kind of rougher sand. You got that big
Yeah.
heavy thing ripping through the
Oh
rough
man,
sand or
Bethpage Black.
fluffy sand when it got wet. You could just go right through it. Just a fantastic club, and out of rough around the greens, it was just
Forget
great.
it.
Yeah,
I
still
can't
got a
believe
club.
more people be, and you're the first person that I found that is saying all the things I say about it. Thick grass around the green, I just fall. It just goes. The thick bunkers at Bethpage, I used to love the bounce I had and the heaviness. At
Yeah,
Bethpage, if you're in the bunker, it's never a little 10-yard out and up and in. It's some big lip. The sand's very deep, and you almost have to swing at it like a driver to advance it like 20 yards.
yeah. Good
and when
grief.
you open that face, you need that bounce that's on there. People hand me wedges all the time, and I go, "Wow, pretty. It looks good. Doesn't feel the same. Doesn't perform the same."
No, no, not even close. Not
And
even
I
close.
feel the
Those are,
same way about my 8802, which is a 1964 blade. They
yeah.
started making those again in the 80s, and even now they're making them. If I hit 5 balls with every putter, mine, the 80s, the now, they don't feel like that one.
And I use a heel shafted putter as well. I use a Tommy Armour Iron Master.
Which one?
That's
Because
my
I have 10 in my garage. I used them in the 80s.
Yeah, I don't know which it's yeah, the iron it's one of the older ones and I like it because it's heel shafted. I don't believe in center shafted putters. I don't believe in face balancing. That the toe, I actually have put a chunk of lead out on the toe to make it even heavier so that I can feel the toe because as I pull it inside, I want some resistance to push against the toe so that I can so
Yeah,
my thought
and
on
swing
putting
it.
is that if I take it inside and open it, now I'm
Right.
eliminating it going left. I've eliminated the pull because I'm coming inside.
A la
Now I can
Crenshaw.
actually try and hook the putt, get some top spin on that thing or some hook spin, and get that thing rolling right off the face. And that's what those guys did with those heel shafted heavy putters back then.
You
Bobby
know,
Block, Blair, right?
I want to bring something up in reference to what you just said. You know how sometimes you can accidentally by osmosis pick up on something from another player? So I was butting heads with Mike Sanfilippo an awful lot in South Florida, in tournaments, and I got paired with him an awful lot. We exchanged first and second place many times. He unknowingly improved my putting by playing with him. What I noticed about Filippo, and I wish I could give him a call. He was a good guy and a great player and a great competitor. But I noticed the toe of his putter in his preps before he putted that he was always practicing releasing it to the point where I thought he was a little flippy almost. But that was an exaggeration he was doing to make sure that he wasn't going to steer it. And then I'm looking at Sevi, Aoki, Bobby Locke, and I'm saying, man, these guys can roll it, and they're letting that toe go.
Yeah. They let
You
it
know,
release, so
and
keeping the
everybody with these,
wrist,
yeah,
a little wrist in the stroke. Yeah.
just a little. So Dad used to say, Mike, the perfect golf swing, chip, and putt feels like this. It feels like you're cutting it and putting topspin on it at the same time. So the handle's leading, yet the toe is releasing at the same time. It's like you're trapping it, and man, that ball just goes end over end, and it's like it's hunting for the hole. It just wants to dive in there, and you end up playing less break and making a lot more putts.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people don't understand is that, the greens back then, when let's just say pre 1970s, the greens look like tee boxes, modern tee box.
Well, it'd be like
And
going to
there's a
play.
different technique that's used to be able to roll the ball across greens. And now you're being down in Florida and putting on Bermuda greens and all that. I mean, it really helps to get that thing rolling, get some top spin on it and on the greens that are slower and bumpier and all that, there's a technique to it. And all those guys were kind of wrist putters a little bit
Yeah,
and
yeah.
kind of a hook stroke and really
I
getting that thing rolling. Where on the modern greens that are like pool tables, all kinds of bad strokes can kind of work, because you don't really have to get
All
the
you got to
right.
do is get it started on the right line. You just got to get it started on the right line. It just rolls like you're on a pool table, is right, or a
Yeah,
marble floor. In South Florida, it wasn't unlike Jamaica and in South America. They had that kukuya. It was very.
yeah. We
We
got
used
that
to
in
say when a
California
guy
too.
hit a putt, we used to say, "Well, it looked good in the air." I mean, it was bouncing all over the place, but you would have a 20-foot, 15-foot putt, and you would see the grain swirling like shiny dark, shiny dark. I'm like, which way's the grain going? Everywhere. So I would study like the last 5 feet of the putt because that's where the ball's dying and that's where it's going to be most affected by the grain. I wasn't too
Right.
concerned with the starting of the roll because it was rolling strong. But you definitely had to have that ball moving end over end to endure those horrible greens. And when I went
And
up to New
Bermuda
York,
greens
I
is
was
a
like,
whole
wow,
different thing. It's a whole different thing, Bermuda greens. Totally different. Being a Californian and putting on mostly bent grass. When I got and started playing down in Texas and Florida and stuff, we played the NCAA championships at Greenleaf. And the Bermuda greens. I mean, the rice planters. I played in that tournament, the thick Bermuda. It was such a foreign thing to me to deal with, and but I think that was one of the great things about golf because I don't agree that golf should be homogenized. You had guys in Florida and Texas who could putt the Bermuda greens. They come out in California, kind of struggle a little bit, right? Or vice versa. We go down there, and I think it's kind of like tennis, where you would have, they would have. If you wanted to win the Grand Slam, you got to win on concrete, you got to win on grass, you got to win on
Right.
clay, right? These
Yeah.
different surfaces.
Adaptability.
One of the beauties of the game was the diversity of that. You had the guys that played good in Florida, right? And the guys that played good in the
Yeah.
Northeast.
When I was in junior high and high school, I was a fan. I like to watch Tom Watson. I liked his waggle, his pivot. Melhorn didn't like that he slid a little bit into the ball, but I admired his boldness on the greens. He wouldn't come to the Doral Open, and I was very disappointed every year. You know why he wouldn't come to Doral? Because he said when he plays there, he loses his putting for like 3 weeks.
Because of the greens.
Yeah, so he liked the Blue Monster, but his putting suffered for weeks to follow when he would leave that track. So Doral in Miami didn't see much of Tom Watson because of what you were just saying. He didn't like Bermuda.
It's a different skill set. I mean, I never mastered it. I can't really remember having any great success on Bermuda. I think the best I did was qualifying for the U.S. Amateur. I won the qualifier in Hawaii, and that was at Waialae. And there was only one spot, and I got it. And they weren't too happy about me coming over from California and taking the one spot. But I was on vacation over there. I just signed up and got it. But that was Bermuda greens. But other than that, I don't really remember having much success. I always felt like I was at a big disadvantage to the guys that really knew how to putt that stuff because they'd go up and look at the hole, and I'm like, what are they doing? Looking at the hole like they're looking for a little gold coin in there or something or what? It would be because the frayed edge, right? The one edge is frayed, and you'd say,
Right.
oh, well, that's the way the grain's going. Like you
I
said,
was just
the
I was
ball
just
slows down towards the hole. That's when it's going to move.
exactly. I was just telling a couple of juniors that there's an besides reading slope and negotiating slope, you have to in Florida you have to know how to study the grain. And I just told them 2 nights ago, this young man Will, he's only 11, and he already knows that when he's in Florida and he's got a 10 footer or whatever, he doesn't look at he doesn't read the putt from behind the ball looking at the hole. He takes a glance there, but then I make him walk a full 360 around the whole entire green, the length of his putt. And I said, what you're looking for as you walk is for the grass changing color. So when you get to the spot in the 360-degree circle where it's shiny, you know the grain's going that way.
Yeah,
As it gets dark,
yeah,
you know
great.
you're
Yeah.
going into it. And for last looks, you walk up to the cup and you look for the frayed edge. If they're freshly cut, you won't see it. So you got to know how to read that sheen.
Now the Masters was Bermuda greens up until when? I know in the '60s it was it in the
I don't know
'60s or
the
something?
answer to that.
Yeah, I know that they were originally Bermuda greens, and then they switched over to bent grass greens, and I'm sure that really changed that tournament a lot because you would have had guys that were good Bermuda players playing there, and then all of a sudden the bent grass guys probably started to do better because that's a real putters tournament.
And a lot of people don't know this fundamental that up north in bent grass, only the blade of grass is coming out of the soil and they can cut it very low. That's why it gets like a billiard table. But
Yeah.
Bermuda grass, the roots are above the soil. And if they cut it too low, you're putting on roots and it's burnt. And I always said I'd rather have them shave it down to nothing and the greens be brown and have something to roll, the ball on. But they want the green, green, green color. And what really nauseated me because I wasn't used to it is when I left South Florida, unknowingly got rerouted in New York after Hurricane Andrew. Now I'm dealing with bent greens. Now I'm dealing with putts that look like they're going left to right and they go right to left because of where the mountains are. And the other thing I'm dealing with is the speed. They're much faster. Um, but it wasn't easy for me to make that change, just like you didn't like coming to Bermuda too much. Going to Bent after being raised in South Florida, and then my early pro career was in South America and the Caribbean, I was used to crappy greens. I excelled on them. When
So
I
did
got
you
up
play the
there,
South American tour?
the what?
Did you play the South American tour?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a tour I always wanted to play, and it it was always conflicting with something else I was doing, playing in Australia or
Well,
something.
I
But
don't know why you wanted to play it. It was an experience, but
oh, an
it was it.
experience. You know, I was out there for the experience. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the purses were better than the mini tour over here,
yeah, a
but
little bit
I
better.
got I got very sick in Barquisimeto, Venezuela. I shot the low round in the third round, and I think I was leading it. And that night, in fact, I was rooming with Carlos Franco, and in broken English, he said, "Come on, let's go get some steaks." And I said, "No, I'm going to stay here." Well, I didn't see the light of day till 8:30 in the morning. I they said it was an amoeba in the lettuce. I was avoiding the water and forgot that they cleaned the lettuce with the water.
Yeah.
But I got very sick down there. Chile, I enjoyed very much. Santiago, Chile. Uh,
A lot of
Lima,
good
Peru.
players. A lot of good players that come out of
Yeah.
South
Oh,
America.
yeah. Lima, Peru. That was a rough one. We had a police escort everywhere we went because America was bombing the cocaine fields at the time, and they hated Americans. So it was an experience.
That's great. You know, I love all that. I mean, the one of the reasons that I played golf professionally was to have those kind of experiences. I mean, I got out of college 20, what am I, 28, 17, 18, 19, I'm like
80,
20, 21
86.
years old. I
Yeah.
started, yeah, 86. So I started college a year early because I skipped a grade. So I was 17 when I got in as a freshman. So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I think I'm 20, 23. I think I was on the tour, got my Canadian card, played that tour, made the order of merit, high enough ranking that I got exempt to go down and play in Australia. Some of the guys were going over and playing South Africa. Guys are playing the Asian tour, the South American tour. I mean, what an incredible experience for someone in their early 20s to be traveling the world, playing golf for a living. I mean, even if you're not making a bunch of dough, I mean, how can you
But at
how
the
can you ever
time,
buy those experiences like what
but
you're talking
but
about?
at the time in that moment, my mind and your mind is getting to the PGA Tour, and for us, it's a means to an end, and we're really not in the moment appreciating. Hey, this guy's putting tar on a roof in the 100-degree weather, and I'm on a jet plane landing in Santiago, Chile, and I'm going to get a shot at a purse, and I'm meeting new people, and looking back, boy, oh boy, I'm so fortunate that I can say I was all over South America. Did I get to
Yeah.
Europe? No, I wanted to, but I didn't get there. But yeah, golf. I tell people if you go into my phone, there's over 3,000 phone numbers. They're all from my golf relationships over the years, and
Yeah.
all the places I've been is from golf. Golf, that saying, golf, baseball's been very good to me. I didn't accomplish what I wanted to yet, but like you
Well, you
say,
did. I mean, we did. You know, we played in that era. I mean, I feel so blessed that I played my entire professional career in the persimmon and blade era. You know,
me
that
too.
to me, that was the real game of golf. It's like baseball with wood bat, right? At the pristine level, at the high elite level of baseball, it's not metal, right? I mean, metal bats are in college and
Yeah,
little league
yeah.
and corporate softball games, but when you're in the show, when you're in the big leagues, they hand you a piece of lumber and you're looking at that 90-mile-an-hour breaking ball coming down at you. Welcome to the show, baby, And
And
I
like
think
you
golf,
say, in those
made a
sports,
mistake. It made a
in the,
mistake, I
they
think,
made a
when it
big
went
mistake.
away from
In
persimmon.
those sports, people can say, "Oh, I hit it out of the park." You hit it out of the park because you have an aluminum bat. Grab this hickory and see if you can do it. That's why the pros are the pros. They can do it with hickory.
That's
Now,
right.
if Jack Nicklaus hit it 300 with an Iamatic McGregor and a steel shaft and a balata shit ball, right? And he's hitting it 280, 300. What would Jack be doing with these giant titanium trampolines with the graphite shaft that don't have any torque in them? How far would Nicholas hit it with that pivot that he had?
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but one of the questions I have about that, and I think you'd probably agree with me on this, that I think a lot of these people we're talking about from that era, their golf swings developed from heavier gear, right? Like 1950s, the
What a
guys
great
that were okay. So like Nicholas, these are when you've got a sledgehammer in your hand, something heavy. I mean, Mo Norton, who I knew, told me. In fact, I didn't just tell me. He swung a 16-ounce persimmon driver, 1 pound golf club. He told me that Hogan was using a 16 ounce. that George Knudson was using a 16 ounce. Mo would have known what everybody was doing. But I held Mo's driver. I was swinging a 14 ounce persimmon when I was playing on the Canadian tour, and his driver was way heavier than mine. So I mean, I knew it was 16 ounces.
You know
Now,
what's interesting?
just real quick, if you're swinging a 16 ounce, that's a 1 pound golf club. Modern golf clubs now are what, 10, 11 ounces? I'm talking the dead weight of the bat, not swing weight, just the whole weight of the weight of the thing. Okay, that if you're a junior player and you're growing up swinging heavier gear, heavier irons, your swing is going to be more pivot driven. Something heavier, you're going to have to use the big muscles in your body to
You'll
get that.
also end up with Watson
They're
forearms.
all these guys, right?
So to your point, I'm hitting I'm hitting it farther at 61 than I did when I was 25 because of the driver I'm using and the shaft I'm using. And like you said, it's not the ball, it's the driver. But what would have happened to those guys? You know, somebody put all of Hogan's yardages in his prime in 1940 whatever, and they wrote down, you know, driver, 3-wood, this, and I wrote, well, what would those yardages be with today's equipment with that same move? But here's the thing, the other thing I agree with you with, a lot of the courses the guys were playing would play entirely different carrying the ball 300 yards. In fact, it might be a disadvantage on those old designs because of the dog legs and the narrowness and where everything was laid out, where the bunkers were. They've ruined the game as far as I'm concerned. They've ruined it.
Of course. Of course, they've ruined the game.
They've absolutely destroyed it because they think they have to market that the golf fans want to see 62. They don't want to see a guy win with 69. They think they can shoot 69. They want to see something phenomenal.
I think the question is, the big question is, what was wrong with golf before? On a 6,800 yard U.S. Open course with persimmon and blades and a high spinning balata ball, golf was very interesting. You look at the golfers that the persimmon era produced, from the more modern guys, from Nick Price and Faldo, were all playing persimmon. Going back to Watson and Seve and Johnny Miller, Ray Floyd, Lanny Watkins. Going back to Nicholas Palmer and Player and all the guys in the 60s and Casper, and I could just go on and on. Tony Lima. These are all persimmon players, right? Hogan, Nelson, Snead, going all the way back to your teacher Bill Melhorn,
Davis Love.
Walter Hagen, and even Tiger Woods as a junior grew up playing persimmon. And I know this for a fact because when I won on the Canadian tour, I was in Golf World magazine, and next to me, on the next page next to me, is Tiger Woods winning Junior World with a persimmon driver in his hand. It's a great
Yeah.
photo.
And don't forget how far Davis Love hit that persimmon.
Yeah, and
I was
Davis
I
well.
was
We
paired. I
Sun
played
Belt.
with him in '89 in the sectionals for the U.S. Open. I got through the locals, and he was scary long.
Scary long, crazy long.
I hit driver 3-wood 9-iron into a par 5. Driver 3-wood 9-iron. He hit 3-wood 6-iron like it was a par 4.
Yeah. And good on those guys like Greg Norman that could hit it 300 yards with a persimmon. That's a skill set. But the thing that people don't understand is that with the balata ball, with the high spinning balata ball, it was very hard to hit it that far and keep it straight, right? You had Trevino love the high spinning ball because he could take a wedge and hit a little draw in there, cut it in, and move it all around with a wedge.
I miss it.
With
I
a
miss it.
driver, that thing's really, really moving, right?
I miss it. I miss it.
Yeah.
You brought back such memories. I used to love dumping some balls about 60 yards out and taking my pitch and wedge, choking it down, making it dance to the right, making it dance to the left, making it back up, would make it go forward. It was like you were just it was all feel. It was wonderful.
Well, it's the
Now I'm
feel,
yelling at the
right?
ball. Go, check. I'm used to boxing it in from the left and making it dance right, and it takes a hop forward and releases forward because the ball's so hard.
Yeah, we had, when you see the modern shot tracers, it'll trace it up to the apex, but then you see the ball falls straight down. Like you can curve it up to the apex, but then as it falls down, it's coming straight. But when we were playing, the ball would curve all the way into the green. Like it would be coming in at an angle on a front left pin placement behind a bunker. I could draw it into the middle of the green and then spin it back to you know, that pin placement. Where there's a skill set there that the young players aren't getting to explore and, in my opinion, enjoy. It's a real joy to be able to have that kind of ball control, to be able to really shape it and move it around. and have to deal with what kind of shot shapes and trajectories. And we talked a little bit about the trajectory thing, and you mentioned how Hogan, they asked him, what club do you hit from 150 yards? He's like, depends on the trajectory, right? Didn't Bill Melhorn would talk about hitting the lowest trajectory shot possible, right?
I felt so strongly about what you just said in my training, and then when I was getting juniors that had aspirations for college scholarships and to turn pro, I remember them coming to the driving range when this wedge craze came out, 60s, 58s, gaps. I said, look in my bag. I got a 1 iron, I got a 3 iron to the pitch, I got a sand wedge 56 degree from 1934, and a putter, a driver, a 3 wood, and a 4 wood or a 5 wood, depending on what course I'm playing. Do you see anything funny going on here? So, Mike, look at this 60-degree wedge my mom picked up for me. I snap it over my knee. He'd yell, what are you doing? I said, take it back home. Tell your mom I'll pay for it. If you're my student, you can make your 56 degrees 60, 58. If you're my student, you can hit a pitching wedge 5 yards, 10 yards, 20 yards, 100. That you Melhorn put hula hoops every 10 yards on the range out to the 150. And can you believe the tedious task? Start with your sandwich, hit every hoop on the fly, and then come backwards. Grab your pitching wood, hit every hoop on the fly, and then come back. 9, all the way to my 3 iron. I had to know what those increments felt like with every club in my bag. And if he really was in a bad mood, do it again and now make him kick right when they land.
So tell me again of the story of Melhorn. He would have he'd put a hat or something out and make guys toss golf
Oh,
balls into it.
yeah. So I made a video the other day regarding this. When my mission as a teacher, for me, a lot of guys are studying methods and theories and opinions. I just like take a guy's body build, his tempo, his physique. I could teach 10 people all the same thing, and they're all going to look a little different doing the same thing. But my mission is the easy part is teaching someone how to hit the ball solid and straight. For me, that's easy. It really is because it came easy to me because of the information. The real edge that I have and my students have is the ability to go on a golf course, think about what the architect's asking of them. Every one of them's different. Pick a percentage shot, choose your club, line it up with precision, have a pre-shot routine that includes a waggle beneficial to the motion you're trying to create. If you're going to cut it, you're going to feel that in your waggle. If you're going to draw it, you're going to feel that in your waggle. But the whole idea is my mission is to have my students free of mechanical mental direction. To me, Bruce Lee was right on the money. He said consciousness of self is the biggest hindrance to being fluid. And what are we chasing? Something that's fluid and a repeating action. Impossible if you're mentally directing it. So this P thing that's going on, I'd like to talk to the guy who came up with that crap. I, I can't even blame amateurs. They're ruining the name of a professional. To me, you're a golf professional. No, you're a professional golfer. I want to go to you for assistance or opinions. I don't want to go to a guy who's a golf professional. He's a professional at merchandising, cart fleet management, running a golf outing, dealing with the members. You're a golf professional and you're very good at it. You're not a professional golfer, my friend. You didn't play golf for a living. You didn't
There's
try to play golf
players
for a living.
playing golf for a living. That's a professional golfer.
And a professional golfer is going to tell you he sets up, he visualizes the flight, and he cracks it. He's not thinking about keep it low, cock his wrist, preset his hands, go to parallel, shallow, extend. Here's a new one, side bend. Side bend? You mean the spine angle that you started with maintains itself throughout the action? That's what you're calling side? That's a new word for me. Yeah, it's insane. And here's the problem. Hey, I heard Mike Mangiaracina is giving lessons over here. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, the pros, they all say all kinds of things, and I end up thinking of too many things and I don't improve. That hurts my pocket because there's so much bad information out there that a guy who knows the truth and how to give it to someone doesn't get the chance with some people because they're fed up with the bullshit. Fed up. And I don't blame them one bit. They're fed up. Go on YouTube. You'll go on YouTube. Just scroll. Just put in golf tips. You'll
Oh,
see guys in their basement, and now they've got a golf school in their basement. They've got a launch monitor. I
yeah.
said the other day, I said, do you really need to spend 600 on the launch monitor? You want to know your swing path? Look at the ball flight. You want to
The
know how
ball
far
flight,
you're
I
hitting it?
understand. I agree. Look at the
What
ball
we do
flight.
for the last 100
Divot.
years? What did we
Look at your
do?
divot in the ball flight.
What did we do for the last 100 years?
It's
Think
not.
about
It's
that.
not producing. It's not producing the next great ball striker. We're not seeing someone that can control the golf ball like they need to properly. Um,
Can
that's
I? I'm sorry, I'm hogging the minutes for a minute.
no, no, no. Take
I
the minutes. That's why you're
I
here.
I want to tell you this. I'm on Sneed.app, so I'm getting an opportunity to look at golf swings of a young pro from Ireland yesterday, a guy from Venezuela the day before, a pro out in Utah. I'm proud to say that some pros are seeking my attention only because they know I'm not going to give them any cookie catchwords, and they know my lineage, so they're trusting me to take a look at their swing. But I can't tell you how many amateurs come to me online and in person. They were told to keep their head on top. They're level shouldered and on top of the ball, and then they're turning and they're dipping, and then they're backing up and they're dancing onto their heels are up in the air. They're on their toes, and I'm like,
Yeah,
what in the
it's
hell are you trying to do here? Are you trying to swing this golf club, or are you trying to end up in the chiropractic office? Not to mention you're going to hit it all over the lot. So I'm fixing the dip and the steep shaft and the pop up. I'm breaking that habit more than ever because there's a system out there called stack and wilt. I mean stack and tilt.
yeah. I don't think either of us are fans of that, are
Well, it's just so unnatural.
we? Yeah. Well,
I
it's
mean,
not consistent. It's not consistent with what the great strikers did, right? They
no.
moved their weight to their right foot, pushed off the right foot to preserve the rotation of the
And their
torso.
hips never did
Right.
this or this. They revolved onto the right, they revolved onto the left. And the chest was a sideways action, and they were always on plane. I mean, just watch Jimmy Demerit on film, or Jackie Burke, or Sneed. Yeah, okay, Sneed hit a pull fade. He won 88 times. So what? But most of the guys look like they were just.
Yeah. Very quick ball target. And we're getting back to the little drill that Melhorn showed you about tossing the balls in the hat
Oh,
or
I'm so
something.
sorry.
Yeah,
That's
let's
the
get back to that. I think that
ADHD.
was one.
That was about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah,
So So
yeah,
Bill's looking Bill's looking out the window of the pro shop as he often did, and he's watching me hit balls. In his later years, he had one lung. He could only walk 10 steps before he had to stop and get his breath. So anyway, he gets in the cart and comes out to me, and people don't know, but he was a gentleman and a man of principle, but he was a tough bastard. He was an old Dutch mean guy. He said, "What in the hell are you staring at that ball for so long? Look down the fairway, look at the ball, look down the fairway, pitch it a flight, pull the trigger. What are you doing?" So he made me do a couple of things. One thing, that's why when the movie came out with the kid who walks up to the ball and hits it while he's walking, Happy Gilmore, he made me stand about 5 feet away, walk up, hit it, and keep walking down the fairway. He said, somewhere between that and what you were doing is what I want. In other words, he knew that there was demons and things and thoughts going on, and he knew that thinking is the enemy. So on a rainy day, he would put a hat down in the pro shop, give me a deck of cards or give me a few balls, and he'd say, "How many can you toss in there?" And I would just take the deck of cards and, "Oh, I think I got like 15 in there." He goes, "Well, I don't care if you got one or if you got them all in there. Here's my point. At no time did you know how hard you were holding the card, how far you went back, when you let it go, where your weight was, what your joints were doing. You pictured it and you let it go. And if you missed it, you pictured it better and you moved. Your body is producing what you're picturing." He says, "Well, that's how I chip. That's how I pitch. That's how I approach the green. That's how I drive it. I picture it, and the body achieves what the mind believes." So more important, it relates to another story with Bill. "Mike, why are you aiming in the next fairway?" "Well, yesterday I hit it in the left water." "Well, if you aim in the fairway of the other hole, you're just going to hit a bigger hook because you believe it's going in the water. So if your alignment was perfect, Michael, and you're picturing it going in the water because of a negative thought, your body will perform and follow that thought. If your alignment is a little off, but in your mind, you're dead set on hitting it down the fairway. Your body will make a correction. You won't even know it, and you'll hit it down the fairway because you wanted to and you believe it. And that's why Nicholas, I felt like he willed that son of a bitch into the hole half the time.
You know,
I said enough.
it's really the spot on with how I teach as well. You know, I am very technical as far as teaching somebody how to strike the ball. But once you get to a point when we get to the advanced part of our class, it's all about shot shaping and drawing and fading the ball. So in other words, when you set up to the ball and you look at the target, if you sense that you're a little bit too far right of the target, it's okay. Just draw it in there, right? Just feel the thing back towards the target. If you set up and it's like, I'm a little more left than I need to be, and you're going to fade it, you know over time and experience that you can fade it back to the target, and the more you fade it, the harder you have to hit it because they're going to put more fade on it, right? So these are the kind of intuitive things that once you have good technique, then it's all about that. It's just quick, pull the trigger, ball, target, boom, boom. I love the guys that just stepped up, tapped the club twice, bam, send it on its way. Don't allow any space in there for irrelevant thoughts or anything like that. Ball, target, go. Repeating shot pattern is all you need to play excellent championship golf. I played with plenty of guys that just dinked it out there 235 yards, a little fade on it. They couldn't even draw the ball. They couldn't even do it, but they just hit that same shot every day. Go out and shoot 66, pick up their check for $7,000 or whatever, and boom, those are the guys that I loved, and what I kind of want to do with
Remember Scott
these
Gump?
stories of interviews and stuff is really just talk more to the journeyman guys, the guys that really they're in it for love of the game. The guys that maybe they're not making that much money, they're sleeping in their cars and all that, but whatever. But that's such a more interesting story, than I got a rich sponsor and I'm on a jet every week. And it just, I mean, who cares how many millions of dollars you make playing golf? I'm more interested in the story about my friend John Brillantine. His car broke down in the middle of the Australian, not the in the outback in the middle of the part between. I mean, Australia is just a big like wasteland out there. But you have cities on the coast, and they were driving across the country in a car and ran out of gas in the middle of the Australian desert. The next gas station is like 200 miles. I mean, it's a more interesting story than just jumping on a jet and talking about your sponsors back at the country club.
You're touching on some really really rich stuff. I mean, I was fortunate to go to Gulliver Prep on a golf scholarship, a fabulous, outstanding top high school in South Florida. My peers, my friends that I still have, they they went on to college and went on, most of them have incredibly impressive careers: doctors, lawyers, businessmen, real estate developers, finance guys. I mean, top. Some of them are top players in the world. With If we get around a bonfire and tell stories, I can honestly say I don't have their money. I don't have their 401k plan, but man, I got some stories for you. Man, I had so much fun.
I
Are
did
you
too.
kidding me? Paul Wilson and I get in our car on borrowed money. A local sponsor puts us in the Jacksonville Jim Dent Open. We're going to drive to Jacksonville. As soon as we got on I-95 downtown Miami, a rainstorm you can't believe. You couldn't even see through the front windshield. That the car next to us, the water hit the windshield. Paul couldn't see. He panicked. We start doing 360s, bang off the median. My head's going all over the place. I get out of the car. Okay, I'm alive. Where are my clubs? I'm picking my clubs. The trunk popped open. I got on the median. I said, find out what time the next train is to Jacksonville. We're not missing this tournament. And that's all I wanted, was to compete. I used to love smelling a brand new pack of balatas, or the
Yeah, yeah,
gasoline on the
oh,
grip when you're putting the grips on, or
yeah,
that when we were dew rakers, that grass that just got cut. That you keep your
yeah.
millions.
I mean, the steel spikes is what I miss the most. Really being able to grip the ground. When you have the proper connection to the ground with steel spikes, you can swing flatter and more rotary. If you try and do that with tennis shoes on a skating rink or something, I mean,
Can
the
you
swings have
please?
kind of got more up and down and stuff. All the old timers, they are much flatter, and they had the pressures in the feet that were moving more like this rather
I
than up
love
and down.
I
Yeah,
love that analysis, but here's the simplicity of it. I made a video of how much I miss FootJoy Classics, the arch support, how my feet felt like they were part of the ground. And
yes,
yes, when they changed the law and said I can't wear steel anymore, I was like, well, there goes my right foot. Every follow through, I was losing my right foot like Greg Norman. It was just going out from under me. I said, well, I gotta really calm down on these tee shots, or I can't keep my feet.
yeah, it's a shame, and I think these decisions have been made by people that are not good golfers or not great players. And no great player would say, "Oh, let's get rid of steel spikes." I mean, if you look at track stars and they have their track shoes on, right? Each sport has its specific shoes. Like in bowling, they actually have the slippery kind of bowling shoes, right, so that you can glide down the lane. With golf, it's the opposite. You need the traction. The golf swings have changed a lot because of the shoes themselves, and I think it's
Just
unfortunate.
another great point you're making. I've made it in the past, but you're touching on all great stuff. And in essence, they're ruining the game of golf. They're ruining it. If they don't want to, if they don't want to do, you know what they should do? What I would enjoy, and I think a lot of tour players would enjoy. Give me one tournament a year where everybody's measurements are submitted for what lie angle they are, and if they want a half inch long or an inch long. But give everybody the same set of clubs for one tournament and the same ball and the same driver. Give them persimmon, and let's see what happens, just for fun. And let's please have the rough at 5 inches, so you can't
Yeah,
blast the 320 and not care where it goes.
I don't think that's in the good spirit of the game. I think it is. It should be a game of accuracy. I don't think there was anything wrong with 6,800-yard U.S. Open golf courses. I mean, it didn't need to be any longer than that. I mean, why does a golf course?
What did they accomplish? Please tell me.
Yeah, what did they
Why did
accomplish?
they have to redesign Bethpage Black and make it so Corey Pavin couldn't hit it to the fairway? What? Why? What did this do for the game? Tell me.
Well, it raised the green fees because now you've got more maintenance on a longer course, right? It's more expensive to maintain a longer course. So
But
that isn't good.
how did it grow the game?
Yeah, I don't think it's it's been good for the game in general. I question what was wrong with golf before, right? What
Nothing.
was wrong with it in the persimmon and blade era? The thing that was great about that era is that you had every different size and shape of golfer. You had tiny people like Chichi Rodriguez and Corey Pavin, right? The great champions. You had big people like George Bear
Andy
and George
Bean.
Archer. George Archer was what 6'6" or something.
Yeah, remember Andy
Won the
Bean?
Masters. You had Nicholas Palmer. You had Roger Maltby, and guys
Greg
like Greg
Stadler.
Stadler that look like they'd be cutting the lawn next door on Sunday. Like, or a guy who looks like an accountant out there, like Mike Reed or something, right? Looks like he'd be doing your taxes. So you have all these people, thin, you short and thin, short and fat, tall and huge, tall and thin. Um, it was an equal opportunity in this age of like everybody wanting equality and all this stuff. Well, they already had that in golf. You had every possible body shape. You had guys that hit it short and straight, could compete against guys that hit it long and a little bit wild because the high spinning ball kind of kept it, harder.
How about Curtis Strange winning two back-to-back U.S. Opens, hitting at 255?
Yeah, hitting at 255. I think the game was really perfect then. But one of my points that I keep hammering home is it a proper set of golf clubs that you would buy from the beginning of golf club. Let's just say from the steel shaft era, where you'd have a 2 iron through a wedge. So you've got 10 par fours on a golf course, right? So of those 10 par fours, your approach shots, you should have 3 long iron approaches, meaning 2, 3, and 4. You would have 3 uh, 5, 6, and 7,
Yep.
and 3, 8, 9, and wedge. So
Yep.
now the player is tested with long irons, mid irons, and short irons. You've got to have that skill set to hit a low trajectory shot that's coming into the
Yep.
green. Now these
And then
classic courses were
and then that
designed.
along with 6 hard pins, 6 easy pins, and 6 medium pins.
Yeah, right. So then now the courses themselves, the greens on the long par fours would be typically designed to accept a lower trajectory shot. let's just take Augusta for example. Let's just say 10 and 11. Those greens are kind of narrow, but they're deep. But then you got the par fives that are protected in the front with water, and the greens are wide, but they're shallow. So if you come in with a low trajectory shot, it's very risky, right? When it's protected in the front. That was why that's how these golf courses were designed. That's the architecture of these courses were to be the architect was thinking about, okay, these are the long iron shots. The greens will be appropriate for the low trajectory shot. If you have a wedge in to a short par four, then you can do some crazy stuff with the green. Maybe, Riviera put a bunker in the middle of the green or what. You should be able to negotiate that if you got a wedge in your hand, right? Not if you have a four iron, you know.
And then some architects go crazy and not give you that variation. Like, I'm going to tell you about the quickest $5,000 I ever spent was in 1998. I'm in New York, and my dad's in Miami. He's still with us, and I'm trying to pick my qualifying site for the first leg of tour qualifying. And on the entry fee, the closest I can get to Dad was Palm Beach, so I can be near him, and train with him. But I was so dumb, and here's why I was dumb. The name of the course was Bear Lakes. It never dawned on my dumb butt that Nicholas designed the golf course. I never, ever, ever would have picked it. Why? Because I grew up hitting knockdown shots, run-up shots, and bullets, and I saw him there after shooting a pair of 75s and losing $5,000, not missing a fairway. I said, "Hey, Jack," because he was watching Gary. I said, "Mr. Nicholas, I guess if you don't hit a high, high fade, you can't play here." And he was like a wise guy. He said, "Well, I only hit low hooks." But he did what Augusta did to protect the par fives on all his holes. They ran diagonal and shallow. If you didn't bring it in from the sky, you couldn't hold those greens.
Yeah.
So I say
Yeah.
to the young players, when you're picking a qualifying site for the Open or Tour School or anything like that, try to think about your strong suit and your game and study the architecture of that course and see if it suits you.
Yeah. I mean,
Could I
look at
have been able to hit it high? Yes, but at that time I wasn't hitting it very high.
someone like Peter Thompson. What do you
Oh
win?
my God, I
Five
love
British
his golf
Opens?
swing.
Was it five
Six
British Opens or
six British Opens.
six British
I
Opens?
love
Peter
it.
Thompson, low ball hitter, right? Just a low ball hitter. Did well in Australia. I mean, you could play a low ball down there, and in Europe on a lot of the courses. The U.S. Tour, gravitated, like you said, to these Nicholas designs and a lot of these TPC courses where it's all these forced carries and
I
you've
was
got to
just
swing
gonna
all the way
say
up in
Pete
the air.
Pete Dye Pete Dye he ruined the game. Stadium golf and you know the
I agree
19
with you, man. I don't like the. I don't. I'm not a Pete Dye
well,
fan.
well I got to make you laugh. It's the 1989 Florida Open. I think there was one spot at Miami Shores, and I got the one spot like you did. I shot 70, and now I'm at Palm Beach Polo Club for the Florida Open, and we're playing 18 holes the first day on a Jerry Pate design, and 18 holes the next day on a Pete Dye design. But vice versa for me. I was Pete Dye, then Jerry Pate, and I was paired with Bruce Fleischer. I wish he was here so you can call him. He's passed. 89, 69, hitting it the same exact way. I said to my father, I said, "Dad, I was 128 yards away from the flag and made a six because this bastard had a front of the green here, the back of the green higher, and then a staircase to a bunker behind the green. And if you land it on the back, you think from 128 you can fly it to the pin and stop it. Well, it didn't stop. I was so deep in a bunker, I had to hit it back into the fairway. But this went on all day with Pete Desai and his insanity. It's not golf to me.
No, I agree with you.
I'm
you know, I
sorry for these long-winded stories, but you keep
they're great stories,
opening.
and it's so funny to like talk to someone that's almost lived a mirror image of my experiences. I mean, I didn't play for 13 years. I retired after 7 years of playing on tour, realizing my future was just going to be a journeyman guy or whatever. And I did it for 7 years. I mean, that's a long time to be traveling nonstop 8 months of the year, living out of a suitcase or whatever. I lived
Yeah,
it.
people think it's glamorous. It's very hard.
Well, I mean, I enjoyed it, but I felt like to
It's still
sustain
it
a
wears on you.
career and I
It,
needed to make more money. And I was just hamster on a treadmill. I'd make $70,000 in the year. I'd pay, for every flights to Australia and traveling and all. This was back in the '80s. But at the end of the year, it's like, I'm just scraping to get by and trying. How am I going to do
As
this
our
next?
friends are building up their 401k,
Yeah, but
everything we're
so I
making, we're
just
putting back into our business, which is entry fees and expenses.
Yeah, so but I didn't play for 13 years, and I did other things and got into real estate and did some other stuff. And then I, came back, started playing again when I found moved up to the Bay Area and found the Mare Island golf course, which is just fantastic. Of course, now it's gone.
You want to laugh? You
It
remember
turned
you
it
said
into just a field now.
you said that we have very similar journeys.
Yeah.
See what you just said? You took a little time off and you did some real estate. I took 10 years away from competitive golf and 10 years away from teaching golf and was in real estate.
Yeah, interesting. So when I moved up to the Bay Area and I started playing again, and I've always been a persimmon player, and I still am to this day. I've never hit the modern gear. And I really improved a lot because I had a chance to play a golf course that was super narrow, windy, tiny greens, and I did some things to my equipment that I'd wanted to do years and years ago, like go a little bit flatter lie angles. I play like 6 degree flat, with my irons. And I made all these changes. I started playing really, really well, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just go to U.S. Open qualifying. So I think that this was maybe, I want to say 2008, maybe 2009, somewhere right in there. And I signed up to go to a Nicholas course at the Mayakama course. So here I am, persimmon and blades. I'm hitting a set of 1968 Hogan bounce soles, right? Remember those, right? So I got those in the bag. I'm hitting the modern ball, and I get out there, and I literally cannot stop the ball on the greens. I mean, the ball would hit the green, and it was bouncing as high as the pin and going right over the greens. And one of the holes, like you said, it had a ladder going down into a bunker. I had to take a ladder down into the bunker. I'm down there, making triple bogeys. My ball lands 15 feet from the pin with a 6 iron, and I'm walking off with a 7.
How
I'm
does it
like,
feel to How does
what
it
is
feel
this?
to meet yourself? It's like we lived parallel lives. I'm me in Florida, you in California. I told you, I feel like I'm talking to myself listening to you.
Yeah, I was so disappointed. I don't know what I shot, 80 something or whatever. I mean, as far as my ball actually landing on the greens, I probably hit 14 or 15 greens. But my ball was over the green down in these death pits or whatever I'm taking ladders down into. And I mean, it was just
So
unbelievable.
Jack got me the same way that he got you, except mine was 5 grand entry fee.
And the guys in my group were able to hold the green. So, I talked to a couple of them after the round, and they showed me that the faces on their irons were like had this milled texture on it, kind of this diamond milled thing or whatever, and that was enough to like grip the ball to where they could spin it. And I'm like, well, I'm playing 68 bounce soles, right? I don't have any milled faces, and I mean, I just couldn't put any spin on the. It was like hitting a top flight or a pinnacle
No,
right
you'd
there.
have to hit a high fade cut almost to get it to stop. It was
So
crazy.
what are your thoughts? What are your let me get your take on the golf ball. The classic balata balls that we played, whether it was the 384 Titleists or the I played the Maxfly HT Balatas. I was on the Maxfly staff, which is a great ball.
You know which
But
ball
being
I
able
like?
to shape the ball and everything with the
Yeah,
softer ball as compared with the modern ball.
there was a ball. There was a soft ball in the late '80s, made by Schlesinger that I really really liked. Schlesinger made a great ball that year. I think it became Bridgestone.
Okay.
Um, but I always played the Titleist Balata, and I didn't mind that I had to change balls every 3 or 4 holes, not because it was out of round, just in case it was out of round.
In case it was right. Yeah, I
But
felt they could have made,
but you can play the
something
same
better
ball
with
for
the
you can play the
durability.
same
Yeah.
ball for 2 weeks right now.
Yeah. Easily. Yeah. I think that was an area that they could have made improvement. Here's a story. I don't. You probably might know this, but I was playing in the Northeast Amateur at Wannamoysit. I think it's still there. They still have it. And one of they had a little tour of the Titleist factory if you wanted to do it. So over in Acushnet, right? Acushnet, Massachusetts, I think. Is that right? Where the factory was. So we're taking the tour of the factory and showing how wound golf balls are made. It was just absolutely fascinating to actually
With
see
the
it.
acid in the middle.
But how they back then, how they defined the difference between a 90 compression and a 100 compression, the balls would roll down this like slope, it was like a metal slope, and they would hit the bottom, and then they would bounce, and then there was like a rail, and if they didn't make it across the rail, they were 90s, and if they made it across the rail, they were 100 compressions.
I had no
and,
idea.
and the balls are all coming down a bunch at a time, and they're hitting each other in the air and colliding. I mean, it was just like, I'm like, really? They said it's the
Like they
same
were calling the
ball.
lottery. They're
Yeah, it's the same. It was the same ball. The 90 and the 100 compression was exactly the same ball, but
I
as
did
they
not know
rolled
that.
it down the slope, and if it made it over this, it was just like a
That's
little barrier there that
crazy.
came up short. It was a 90. If it just made it
That's
over,
crazy. I did not know that.
I was shocked, and then it was like, just give me, when I talked to the tour reps, just give me whatever you
Wow.
got. It's like,
How about the Acushnet Club specials?
yeah, that was the low compression. It was like the
Yeah.
80 compression or
Yeah.
70 or something, right?
How
The
about
club
the Max
special.
Flies who used to come wrapped in black plastic, each bowl? Remember
Yeah, and
those?
those were the early Max Flies, like was it the dot or whatever? Was that the Max Fly dot,
Yeah,
the
the
red
dot.
dot
The dot,
and
yeah.
the black dot and the red
Yeah.
dot, right?
Boy, are we getting
Those
old.
ones would remember you'd find those things out in the field, like they'd been out there for a couple years or something, and it'd be like
Oval.
oval, like they literally like ovals and stuff.
It,
Remember
it melted.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
that
about
was
Andy You remember Andy Bean?
sure, sure.
He used to take this ball and bite the cover off
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he could do that, right? He could bite the cover off a balata.
and wrestle an alligator. That was a big boy. When I was
Yeah,
in college at FIU, I was part timing at the driving range at Doral. So Dad was inside the ropes coaching Chi-Chi, Mahaffey, and Jim Thorpe. I got to hit balls with Trevino a lot. I actually got to play practice round when I was a kid with Chi-Chi, David Graham, and Sevi. But anyway, there I go, going off on another story. I'm in the
well,
pro shop at the range, and Andy Bean comes running in there. I'm just 19 years old. You got any grips? All right, change this grip for me. It was a putter grip. I said, here you go. Gives me a $20. $20 back in 1984 was a lot of money.
yeah, it'll
So
last you a
I
couple
never
days.
forgot Andy Bean. What a
So
sport.
getting back to Melhorn, what and you teaching, what were his basic kind of general overall philosophies on the golf swing? Like, what
Yeah,
would
I would
be
love
his
to.
kind
I
of
would love to
key
talk about
elements?
that with you, and I would love to talk to everybody about that because here's why I'm so upset with what's going on in the golf teaching world. If the goal is to have somebody free of thought, right? Meaning, knowing that Michael Jordan on a fast break performs a jump shot with two guys covering him, and it's all net. But he goes to the foul line, and all of a sudden, nobody's guarding him. He's got 25 seconds. All of a sudden, that great world class athlete has to dribble, breathe. What happened to all the talent? Well, it's very simple. On the fast break, he was being the athlete he is and reacting to the situation and not thinking. On the foul line, he's afforded time to think, and now he's not reacting, he's initiating. So the struggle with great athletes, and Dan Marino, I've told the story before, when he was a rookie, in his rookie years, he was hanging out at the RAL and he was saying, Mike, I don't know how you hit the ball like you do. You just set up, walk, boom, boom, it's gone. Next, boom, boom, it's gone. I said, Dan, that's the way you say hike and read a defense and fire a bullet. The problem you're having, Dan, is golf is not allowing you to use your athleticism because it's stationary, it's on the ground, you're initiating, it's got to go in the air, and you're thinking about how to move. If I teach you to address the ball and picture the flight, in fact, Dan, let me go out here 20 yards away in front of you. I'm going to roll the ball to you. As it approaches, I bet you your hips unwind. I bet you they don't pause to help. I bet you open up on it like Jose Canseco on a fastball. So the point is, I try to get my students fundamentals that Kevin Michaels said this to me. He says, Mike, you're not even teaching the golf swing. I said, what do you mean? I've been teaching since 1986, along with playing. He says, no, you're not teaching the golf swing. You're teaching fundamentals that make the golf swing appear. I said, I'm going to use that. That's exactly what I'm doing. Because if you hold the club like Varden taught Mehlhorn and Melhorn taught me, in the fingers, without squeezing with the heel pad and the thumb pad, just in the fingers. You know how Scheffler holds it in front of him? All my students hold it up here because when it's down here, the butt of the club wants to go up on your heel pad. I have them hold it in their fingers of both hands. I make sure that they've got that seal here and a V in the middle, knuckle on the side. I think if they're in the fingers and they're not squeezing, they give me my most important thing. Muscles and joints are now able to be at ease. Now, if they're truly at ease and free of tension, they're relying on you initiating the movement with a pivot to move. And if you truly initiate with a pivot, they will move. They will have a very wide outer pull on them. When you unwind before they finish going back, they will lag on their own. There is no shallow. There is no wrist cock. There is all these things happen when you're holding it correctly and you're free of tension, but they're all nothing without the other. So the right grip is important because it affords me relaxed arms. Relaxed arms are important, but I don't benefit from them if I don't pivot. And then timing becomes an issue. I have to initiate and deliver with my core. If I go back here and I pause, I get the cast. But I don't tell somebody, hey, you're casting, don't do that. I found out why they're casting. Well, you'll see a few videos recently. I make them hold it with the right hand alone. And these are all things that were done to me. I'm not inventing any of this. This is Melhorn talking to Jackie Burke, Melhorn talking to Mickey Wright, Melhorn talking to Larry, Mr. Nelson, Hogan, Sam Bird. And I love how people form their own churches off of Melhorn's information and change it. But anyway, the same thing those guys were doing. So Melhorn would say, hold it in your right hand and pretend you're going to throw this club down the. In fact, he'd make me throw. He'd have old clubs here, and he'd say, throw these clubs as far as you can, sidearm. I'd throw them down the fairway. He goes, you didn't go back here and pause. You were unwinding before your arm finished going back, just like a baseball pitcher.
Yeah, that's great.
So these are the things that I put in place. Very simple. And if you go online and look at some of my beginners, like I'll just meet somebody. Hey, this is my daughter. She's 16. She'd like to be on the golf team. Inside of 2 weeks, I got this girl looking like Mickey Wright. Why? Because I'm not having her mentally direct anything. I'm giving her the proper fundamentals and then drills to get her to feel it. No thinking. That's the enemy. That's why I want to throw up when I see guys go, put the club down the target line. The face should be a little closed. Go up here. Really? This thing's a second and a half. I'm going to think about all that?
Yeah, there's no time for thoughts. I mean, we got to
So
leave all that stuff on the practice range. One of the things that that I did when I was on tour, here's a couple interesting little stories I'll share with you. I played a lot of tournaments where when I was warming up, I would just take divots. I wouldn't even hit any balls.
Melhorn would have thrown you off the tee.
Well, I always felt like hitting a golf ball before I played had the potential to be kind of a negative thing. In other words, if I'm warming up on the range and I hit
you're
30
very
or
smart.
40 balls,
You're
if I
very
hit
smart.
30 or 40 balls, and if I'm not hitting it good on the range, now I'm going to the first tee in my head like I'm not hitting it very good today.
You're very
right?
smart.
Or the opposite happens where I'm hitting it great on the range. My cat is going, oh, John, you're just flushing it today. You're going to do great. And I get up on the first tee and I hit it out into the right trees. Now I'm walking down the first fairway like, what the hell's going on? Now I'm really confused. And so what divots would do to me is I got control of my low point, right? If I
What
can
iron?
pick 10
What
divots, 10
iron?
divots that all look the same, boom, 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 boom. Okay, I know that if I put a ball in the way of that, bam, right? No problem. I mean, how can I expect to hit consistent golf shots if I can't even take consistent divots? Right?
So you're saying something very similar but a little different. So Melhorn would say this to you. When he was through practicing on a practice tee, you couldn't tell where he was hitting balls from because he had a sideways action and he was picking it clean. He was disgusted by divots. He would tolerate them with the wedge, the 9, the 8. He'd say clip the grass with the mid irons, but you better pick it clean with your 2 and 3 and 4 iron, and
No,
certainly your woods.
I agree with you because my divots, I always wanted them very shallow, thin. And if I found like almost like putting green kind of grass, like at the end of the range somewhere. They cut it short, and I'd find that spot, and I'd want my divots to just be very like thin,
Yeah.
and I'd
Just
want them to
shave it.
just taper off to
Shave.
the left a little bit as it's like go through. When I'm hitting the ball the best, my divot will start like very square, and then it'll move to the left as at towards shallow, like a dollar bill, but very thin, and I can
Yeah.
draw the ball
Yeah.
with the divot going left and my ball starting to the right.
Right.
You
See,
know,
now I always, being brought up by Melhorn, and if you look at Mickey Wright's finish, and you look at Hogan's finish, and Jackie Burke's finish, and Byron Nelson's finish, you're going to see an anti-left finish. We eliminated the left side of the golf course and preferred to fade it, but we're able to draw it at will when we had to for a dogleg right, left, or for a pin that's tucked and you're going pin hunting and you bring it in. But we preferred. He believed the natural flight of the natural swing was a fade, so I didn't have that kind of shape divot, and I was never trying to hit a draw. But in my exhibitions, I show people: can you play ping pong? Can you play tennis? Can I just put all three of these weapons in my hand at the same time and show you that the motions are the same? It's not a new move. When I want topspin, when I want to cut it, it just, to me, the golf club's a long tennis racket with a small head, and the
or
ball's
ping
not
pong
moving.
paddle. Yeah,
Sorry?
Johnny Miller talked about the same thing. How he felt like the draw of the ball was from the underneath and like this, right?
Yeah. It's just
You
a
know, and
feeling.
yeah, it's a
That's
feeling
all it
from
is.
yeah. If you're like putting topspin on it, like hitting, and then if you're cutting it, you'd be coming down and
Yeah.
putting backspin on like a tennis
Yeah.
shot. It
Yeah.
really isn't
You
any
know,
different at all.
we talk about what value and what are the principles that made Melhorn Hogan call him the best ball striker he ever saw, and what made him a great teacher. I'm going to say something pretty shocking to everybody. Melhorn really was not a great teacher. He wasn't very good at communicating. If you read a Miami Herald article in 1977, Melhorn confesses it was Sal, my father, who put my theories and thoughts into an understandable format. So somebody might say, well, you were brought up by Melhorn. That's from, yes, but the way I'm giving it to you and delivering it and getting you to understand it, I ask a student, have you played hockey? No. Okay. Did you play tennis? No. Have you ever played ping pong just for fun? I find something that they can relate to and say, yeah, I did that. And then I show them that the golf swing's not a new move. It's in there. It might be, you threw the javelin in the Olympics? Really? Well, you pivoted and then you unwound. You never told yourself, cock my wrist. I've never seen a pitcher go back and say, cock my wrist.
Right.
I mean, the point is, have you ever chopped wood? Oh, have you ever swung a sledgehammer? So I try to find something that a person can relate to, and then I try to simplify it, and then I demonstrate. I don't just say it. I'll take them on the course if they want, but I'll demonstrate. Here's a fade. Here's a draw. Here's low. You want to see it high? Okay. Now, you see how fast I'm hitting these shots? I'm just picturing these various flights and doing them. Well, that's my body reacting to what I'm imagining, but I'm able to do this because my fundamentals are in place and I'm not thinking about them. I have the correct grip. I initiate with my hips and I deliver with my hips, and I'm not tight. Now, Harry Vardon told Bill Melhorn, hey, Bill, you want to be a successful player. Mind you, Bill loves baseball more than golf originally. And he was best friends with Babe Ruth, and they played cards together and went out drinking together. But Vardon told Melhorn, who was built like a linebacker, his dad was a bricklayer. Melhorn was like this. Melhorn was built like Greg Norman. Broad shoulders, strong forearms and hands. He said, if you don't start swinging at 75%, you can kiss your golf career goodbye. That's when Melhorn realized that Vardon said a bigger pivot and softer arms, you're going to hit it farther and straighter. And, Melhorn formed his own church off of Vardon because Vardon was a little concave at the top and Melhorn was dead flat because he wasn't squeezing, He didn't let it get like that. But whether you're a professional calling me from Ireland or an 11-year-old little boy, I'm giving you the same grip. I'm explaining ball position the same way. I'm explaining how the golf swing's initiated the same way. And somebody in New York said, "Hey, Mike, I see your thumbprint on all your students. I can tell who your student is." I was in New York and I saw somebody's grip and I said, "Who'd you take lessons from?" They said, "Mike Mangiaracina something." And he goes, "I knew it." Then he sees a finish and he goes, "Did you take lessons from Mike?" And he goes, "Yeah." That's Melhorn's effect on simple things. And I I I don't want to take any credit other than keeping it going, but I just am very blessed and very thankful that I was born where I was born and by who made me.
So the classic finish that you're describing, that you're doing so beautifully right there, was Melhorn really the one that established that finish? Because before Bobby Jones and stuff, it was always kind
No,
of a
no, it was probably Varden.
Varden.
And then you got to ask Varden who gave it to you in Scotland. I mean, Kevin Michaels, my friend who played the European Tour and South American Tour, he's actually a fascinating historian, not on the rules of golf or this and that, but on transfer of knowledge. Because he'll ask me questions like, "Hey, you know that drill that you do, the circle drill? When somebody's blocking the ball and you say, just draw circles, and they show him how the arms fall and rotate naturally. Where'd Melhorn get that from?" I'm like, "I don't know. I thought it was his." He goes, "No, that was Varden's." He studied and found the transfer of knowledge. You know that Nicholas, we know this, you and I, Nicholas around the greens would say that he holds his irons like a putter and his chip he makes like a putting stroke. I didn't know Phil Rogers taught him that. Did you?
Yeah, I did. I
Well, I
did.
didn't know that. So when Kevin told me Phil Rogers got put on Nicholas's payroll because of that, that was fascinating to me. And now with these longer grips, I'm able to, man, I'm telling you, it's like stealing. I Now that I can go all the way down, the shaft can get almost vertical like my 8802, and I'm just making a putting stroke. And the loft I choose is based on the running room I have, and it's so easy.
Yeah, I do
Why
the
did they
same.
shorten the grips? Back, for 100 years, they were 14 inches long.
Well, here's something. My putter, is now a round grip. I got rid of the square grips. I just went back to a round grip. I want my hands to feel the same on a putter as they do a one iron. And I use the same grip to putt with that I hit a one iron with. I don't change my grip. I don't want putting to all of a sudden be some totally different thing with some different
You know,
clubs.
you're talking Crenshaw language.
Yeah,
Crenshaw said his putting stroke was a miniature swing.
it's a miniature swing. And I really I've told this story on my channel many times, but I'll tell it to you. You know the sports writer Al Barkow, I'm sure, a famous
Yeah,
sports writer.
yeah.
Yeah, so Al's a very good friend of mine. We're out there playing out at Mare Island one day, and I was just, hitting the ball great, and my putting was just so bad, right? It was just, it got so, because I was so mechanical and I was using the Peltz track and all this stuff, and it was just, it was just horrible. And Al said, John, you're such a good chipper. I'm surprised you're not a good putter because most good chippers are good putters. And I just thought to myself, you know what? He's right. I was 20 feet away at Mare Island and I was on the fringe. Like, obviously, most people would putt it, but I wanted to make it. So I pull out an 8 iron because I think I'm more likely to chip it in with an 8 iron than I am to putt it. And then I thought, you know what? If I just made a putter that's exactly like my wedge or an 8 iron, like the same lie angle, the same weight, the same shaft, the same grip, the same setup, my weight on my left foot, my hands forward. I put 12 degrees of loft on my putter so that when I put my hands forward, it brings it back to square. I take it inside, open it up, and I hook spin it. With the golf club alone, using the same technique that I used to chip, I immediately became an excellent putter immediately without having to do anything other than just go to a chipping stroke with my putting.
So Mike Sanfilippo had an Arnold Palmer personal blade putter.
Yeah, the AP, right?
Yeah, and I've got three of them in the garage. And I spent a couple of years trying to duplicate what he did because I'd hold this putter in my hand. I'm saying, "You bent the shit out of this." It was flat. It looked like the putter was almost ahead of the shaft, but it wasn't. He had it bent up so that he can make a little chip shot swing when he was putting.
Exactly like what I'm doing, it sounds like.
You exactly what you described is what Sanfilippo did to his Arnold Palmer. Exactly.
Yeah. And I thought, well, I started putting very nicely because I don't practice or play much anymore. But when I do go out and play with a student, I want to be able to be competent. I want to be able to, scare shooting a 68 or something, even if I haven't played in 6 months or something.
I'm sure you shoot par better still whenever you tee it up.
Yeah, no, I do. I play well. I mean, the last round I played was at Cypress Point, and I went out and hit 14 greens out there, and I hadn't played in,
Excellent.
like 8 months or something, you know, in the wind, you know. Um,
No, man. Listen, I already know about you. You're a fine player. I know that.
well, I'm a good player. I mean,
No,
good
no, no.
talent.
You're better than good.
Yeah, well, it's all relative, isn't it? There were always guys at every level that I played junior golf. There was always a guy. When I was in Southern California junior golf, I was third ranked in the state, and Dennis Paulson and Duffy Waldorf were a little better than me. I was number three. College golf, I was an All American, but I couldn't beat Sam Randolph. I mean, Sam Randolph. I'm playing in the Fresno State Classic 3-round tournament. Duffy finishes second. He shoots 211. I finish third. I shoot 214. Sam Randolph shoots 200. Wins by 11 shots. It's just like, what?
Yeah,
Huh? What's
yeah.
this? I
John
mean,
Hughes,
I was never going to shoot scores like that. There were always, I mean,
John Hu-
Sam.
John Houston make me I had a hiccup. I think it was 1988 Florida Open at Innisbrook, and I get paired with John. And John's on the Space Coast tour. He's not on tour yet, but we're in the Florida Open and we're paired together. He did qualify that fall though for the tour, and I never saw him again. But after 7 holes, John's 6 under and I'm 1 under. I felt like I was shooting 90.
Right. I know. Yeah, I love
I
watching.
think I went out in 71. I felt like I shot 90. This
Yeah.
guy, he made a 65 just look like he was, you know, just a walk in the park. He was a fine player, but he didn't talk too much. That was disturbing.
Yeah, it's all relative, but the thing is it's about the journey, and it's about to me it was always about and still is the pursuit of excellence, trying to be as excellent as you can possibly be with technique, with your ability to strike the ball, to shape it, to curve it, to play, to get up there just automatically just tee it, bam, look down the fairway like you said.
Look at
I mean, I do not
look at
allow myself to have any irrelevant thoughts when I have a golf ball in front of
no
me. It's
no
ball in hand.
I forbid it. I
Yeah.
forbid it.
Yeah, you see guys hanging over the ball forever and trying to,
No, I you know here's what's really fascinating, and I feel really stupid. I was very proud that it hurt me a little because as you got closer to the PGA Tour, Monday qualifyings, Tour School, these guys are like human rain delays. I wanted to hit them over the head with a 3 iron. They were so slow. It's so scary how slow they are.
yeah,
But that's my failure in my ability to pace myself and entertain my mind while I'm sitting in the fairway for 10 days. That's my problem. It's not their problem. But the idea is when you get accustomed to addressing a ball, picturing the flight, look at the ball, picture the flight, and pull the trigger, you become a fast-paced player. But the edge you have is you never have any time to allow the demons to enter.
yeah. I
And
agree with that
and
100%.
my putting, like one year I had a 5 month run where I was making everything I looked at. I wasn't afraid of any course or anybody. I'd play anybody for any amount of money. I knew inside of 10 feet it's down. It didn't matter to me. But then it would leave me. And then I became conscious of my stroke. And now I'm doing what I tell my amateurs not to do. And then I heard about this guy, um, this sports psychologist. What's his name? Very famous
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Putting out of your
It's
mind.
Bob Rotella.
Bob Rotella. And Rotella says, and Davis Love said he helped him, I think. Rotella says, after you read the putt, you walk around, you decide your line. Once you set the putter blade square to you want to start it, begin looking at the hole and visualizing back to the ball. I don't care if you do it 15 times, but the minute you're ready to pull the trigger, look one more time. As soon as your eyes get back to the ball, pull the trigger. I do that tee to green my whole life. I never did it on the putting green. Well, that was a game changer for me. I'm really, really good at putting right now. No, I didn't change anything except that. I'm now managing my mind like I do tee to green, that I don't allow any time to stare at the ball. Because that's when the bastard says, "Are you sure it's left edge?"
But what do you think about, there was always some talk about the guy that you would just look at the hole and putt.
Yeah,
Did you ever see
yeah,
anyone that could actually do that
yeah. I have
successfully?
no interest in that. Yeah. I've seen guys do it. I've seen them close their eyes. I've seen everything. When a guy
Well,
has the yips, he'll try anything.
other sports like darts, you'd be looking at the target, right? You're not looking at your hand or a
Right.
lot of
Or the dart.
the baseball
That's a good
pitcher,
point. That's a
the
good point.
baseball pitcher's looking at he's not looking here. He's looking, if
That
you
is
put
a
it up and you're
beautiful
like looking
point. I
at the
never
hole,
thought about that. Yeah, when we're playing darts, we're looking at the board and we're just going it, and we're
yeah.
not even conscious of the dart we're holding. That's a great point. Now you're
I
going to
don't.
make me go putt tomorrow looking at the
Well,
hole.
I've never seen anyone really do it well. I mean, not great, I should say. I've seen people do it where they were struggling with their putting and they're going to be okay. I'm just going to look at the hole.
Was
I've seen
Spieth doing
people.
that in the Masters when he ran away with it?
I don't know. I don't know. It's
I
just
got to look at the film. I
I
think he
find it
was
an
doing that.
interesting concept. It's an interesting concept. I haven't really given
No,
it a try myself, but I I think it would have some validity, to
no, it
that.
has to. But I
Some
think
short.
you still have to make sure your putter's square to where you want to go. And when you look at the hole, yeah, I'm going to try that, because you know what? When you're throwing darts, hey, listen, you might have just made me get into the Chubb Classic. When you're throwing darts, you're right. You're picturing it and you're going. You're not looking at the golf ball or the weapon. Your weapon is your hand in darts, and the tool is the dart. Yeah, you invite demons. I think I'm almost doing that with Rotella's method of thinking, which is my method of tee to green, or Melhorn's method tee to green. Look at the fairway, picture the shot. As soon as your eyes get back to the ball, pull the trigger. But that's a step beyond that. Never looking at your ball, except to line it up.
Yeah, well, let me know how that goes. I think it's a valid method. I would think. I've never.
No, I'm going
The
to film it.
basketball player, is looking at
Same
the hoop,
thing.
right?
Same thing.
They're looking at the hoop. They're not
A
looking at
hockey
their
player
hand,
too.
ball, right?
How about a hockey player? Same thing. Looking at the goal,
Football player, quarterback throwing it down. He's looking at
looking
the,
at the target, a moving target.
right? Why wouldn't it be? I think it could be a valid way.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, listen, I've seen it before, but I never thought about it and related it to why wouldn't you do that when you do that in all those other actions. And guess what? That's brilliant. I'm going to try it tomorrow, and I'm going to film it and send it to you.
Thought about that, or if he
He
maybe
probably tried it.
he probably had tried it.
He probably tried. He'd have tried anything. He was so horrible at putting. The poor guy.
So let's talk about Melhorn's relation to Hogan. Everybody loves Hogan. All roads lead to Hogan when it comes to ball striking and technique
Yeah,
and all that.
yeah.
So what did Hogan learn from Melhorn? What was their
Well,
relationship
I
between?
think, from my understanding, first of all, let me say this: if I show you, if you go on my YouTube channel or my Instagram, I got a hold of some footage of Melhorn hitting a tee shot in 1925. I guess he was 27 years old. And when I look at that swing and I look at his hip action and what he's doing and his pivot, I think he moved better than Hogan. And I think Hogan would say he moved better than Hogan. Hogan was built a little different than Melhorn. And what I think Bill did better is I think Bill had a bigger pivot. Um, I think Hogan's swing became a knockdown shot. He didn't go much higher than his shoulder. Who knows how his joints are designed? What I loved about Ben is the amount of centrifugal force he created by unwinding before he finished his backswing. It's amazing how students finish here with their hands tight, and as soon as I give them a few drills, the shaft's hitting them in the back, and they don't even know how it got there. And they feel like their arms are pulling them out of their sockets because they're unwinding at the right time. They're starting to create everything. I think Hogan was struggling with a hook, and I'm told Melhorn was very humble. He didn't brag. I'm told Hogan went to him to learn how to fade it like Bill. That's what I'm told. I'm told he would call Bill, even in the late years in Miami at my dad's pro shop, often to talk to him. I know I have a recording that I posted of my dad phoning Hogan's factory, Hogan running to the phone because he knew Melhorn was on the other end, and then him taking by himself, not a whole spec order from Melhorn of what clubs he wants. He
Yeah,
said,
I heard that. I heard that he
"Yeah,
was. You could tell
yes."
that they were good friends and had
You could
great
tell they
relationships.
loved each other. Yeah, and they were fond of each other. And he said, "Are you still hitting that fade?" And he says, "Absolutely, you know that." But
And
I
he
think
wanted the number five shafts, right? The Apex five shafts.
he wanted to. Now, mind you, he might have been 75 years old when he made that order, and he
Yeah,
wanted a D6 or D3. He wanted heavy clubs and
heavy
he
and
wanted stiff
the
clubs.
stiff number five shafts, which are great
Because
shafts.
Melhorn said the stiffer the shaft, the less chance you have of hitting it offline. And he wasn't interested in hitting it high, so he didn't
Yeah.
care that he hit it lower. And he wanted it heavy because he believed in centrifugal force, not muscle force. To your point about the clubs being heavier when he was making clubs, he always wanted stiff and heavy.
So here's another little interesting tidbit. So Barkow and I are playing with a guy named Ron Chalmers, and Ron was the president of Precision Brunswick Shaft Company, right? And they made the Apex shaft. They're the ones that made Hogan's shafts, the Precision Brunswick. And I was having trouble hooking the ball a little bit when I was playing out of Mare Island, and I thought, I can't hook a one iron. I can't, right? And I hit a lot of one irons out there off the tees because the fairways are super narrow, so I hit one irons. And I thought, why can I hook a driver sometimes but not a one iron? So
Well, it's teed up.
I went to my garage, my shop, and I hung 8 pound weights, one from my one iron and one from my driver, which I had a taper tipped X100, maybe tipped an inch, right? Pretty stiff shaft, right? In the
Yeah,
driver. So
really stiff.
when I hang these weights, my one iron drops down to here, and the driver drops way down to here. And I'm like, okay, well, what if I had the same shaft deflection from my wedge all the way through to my
So
one
you,
iron into my woods? And what I found out is that to get the same stiffness, okay, with my driver as my one iron, I had to tip it 5 inches. 5 inches. Okay. So what I
so you
did is
accidentally invented the frequency matched clubs.
I don't believe in frequency matched clubs because
Well,
frequency
you were matching the bend points.
deflection, the
Yeah,
deflection, right? Okay, so what I did, I found that I had to take a one iron shaft. So I had an old, I don't hit pings and I don't like them, but I had a ping one iron that had the long one iron shaft. Pulled that shaft out. I tipped it until it was the same deflection rate as my one iron. Stuck it in my driver. I had to add about 6 inches underneath, to the grip end, stick a plug in, put the grip on, go out to Mare Island. This thing is so stiff, right? First tee it up, hit it dead right into the driving range. I'm just like, okay, well, now maybe I can try and hook my driver now. So now I'm trying to hook it and I still hit it a little bit right. And now I'm really trying to hook it and it's just dead straight.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, now
Just
I've eliminated the left side of the course.
just
So
another
I have,
indication, and that I have respect for your mind. That's very brilliant to come up with that.
so I have this, I'm thinking, you know what? I've solved the Rubik's Cube of this whole thing. So I'm playing, getting back to Ron Chalmers. So I'm playing with Ron and Al, and I'm showing him my new driver. And I said, I got a one iron shaft in here tipped. And he said, and I asked Ron, I said, well, why did they have, driver shafts or wood shafts and iron shafts? Why weren't they all the same shafts? And he said, oh, well, yeah, they did that a long time ago. He said we used to put one iron shafts, and a lot of our touring pros would order one iron shafts, exactly what you're talking about, and put it in their clubs. And I was like, it was just like old news to him. He was just like, yeah, I mean, here I'm thinking I'm
Yeah,
some genius or whatever.
so did
He's
I.
like, oh yeah, I said, yeah, back in the 60s and 70s, guys used to do that all the time. They didn't put wood shafts in their clubs, they put iron shafts in their clubs
I
and had
didn't
them
know that.
extended. And we would make special shafts at the factory. And I said, well, who did you do this for? And he said, Raymond Floyd, Lanny Watkins, Arnold Palmer, Ben Hogan, and one other of those legendary guys: Palmer, Hogan, Watkins, Floyd, and nothing new. And then
Wow, did Arnold Palmer really need that with that hook he fought?
so now, next time you look at that famous picture of Hogan and Palmer when they're got their cardigan sweaters on and the cigarettes and they're have their
I have it.
drivers.
I
Okay,
have it.
take a look at that now with what I've just told you and look at the shaft as it's coming into the head. And you can tell those are not wood shafts. Those are both iron. Those are thick. They are thick at the bottom. Those are one iron shafts in those drivers.
Awesome.
So anyway, so I did that, and I haven't seen the left side of a golf course since. And I can use the same swing with a one iron with a driver. And if you're holding shaft flex into the strike, then you've got the same amount of pressure on the shaft. Whether it's loose, you don't lose any distance. You have the same stored energy. I don't know if it's kinetic.
That's very
Kinetic
interesting. It's
energy.
almost like cheating. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not cheating at all, but it's knowledge is powerful because when you put that shaft in there, let's say you make a bad swing and it would normally hook, it's not going to hook, or it's not going to move as much.
The
Because
frequency match.
I have a one iron in my bag. It's the Sounder one iron that Sevi played.
Yeah.
And people say, "Why do you have a one iron? You're like showing off that you can hit a one iron." I'm like, "No, not really. I have it in there because I love hitting low shots, and I like choking down on it and hitting a punch shot sometimes from 180 when you guys are muscling six irons, and just to make you crazy. And if I am in the woods, I like to have something that I can easily hit under the limbs. Or if the hole's short and it's a par four and it's tight, yeah, I could choke on a driver, but I'll hit a comfortable one iron about, down the middle. And I just think it's more useful than a 58-degree having another wedge. I'd rather have a one iron.
Yeah. I've always had a one iron in my bag from college, all my pro career, my whole. I would skip the two iron, so I go one iron, three iron.
They're not
Right.
even making them anymore.
Yeah, they don't even make them. And I carried, so when I was on tour, I carried driver, two wood, one iron. Typically, some
Stop,
courses I might
stop,
carry a
stop,
four
stop,
wood.
stop. Stop, because you're killing me with the parallel universe. So what's in my bag? Driver. They call it a three wood, but it's a Strixon 13 degrees
Two wood.
and a one iron.
Yeah. Because now here's what I do with my driver, like I just said, with that kind of what I call a pole shaft. I can't hit it left, and I think my driver's, it's got no coefficient of restitution off persimmon, right? So I've got I think 10 degrees. I have my driver set. I hit a 1950s Spalding Model 28. That's my gamer with the Gamma Fire insert. That's what I play. Now with my two wood, I've got a McGregor velocitized two wood, mid 60s, I think, early 60s. And the shaft that I have in that is just a tiny bit looser than my driver shaft, just a tiny bit. So if I need to draw it off the tee, I hit two wood because I got a little more loft and I can get it up. I set them up the same length. So they're both, my driver and my two wood are both 43 and a half inches. So draw it off
I'm
the tee with the two
I'm
wood,
very impressed.
hit it with the driver, and if it's a really narrow hole, one iron. Because I believe, like Hogan said, the most important shot in on a golf hole is the drive, the tee shot. That's what sets up the hole, right?
I'm so
If it's
impressed,
hitting
and
that
it's
right
so
up down the left
refreshing.
side, opening up my angles and all that stuff. That's the kind of golf I like to play. That's the kind of golf that's interesting to me to play strategically, all about lines, angles, the great architecture, and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So driver, two wood, one iron. Those are my driving clubs to get it into play. I just carry one wedge, two wedges. I got a sand wedge and a pitching wedge.
Again, you're just like talking to myself. Everything you just said is me. And I was going to say I'm so impressed, but I don't want to be conceited because what you're saying is what I do. That's why I'm so impressed. But that's brilliant course management. That's thinking, and that's playing golf. And it's refreshing to talk to somebody who is a player instead of a professor in a lab coat spewing out ball speed.
Yeah, the ball speed thing. I mean, I never could
I could care less.
understand how. I mean, how ball speed. Even if I know the ball speed, like
Who
if I got
cares?
a six iron in my hand, like why do they show the ball speed? Like if a six, I mean, what trajectory am I doing?
Brother,
I'm straight point, left
the
to right, right
public
to
is
left.
so brainwashed into thinking there's value there. They're opening up 2,000 square foot places with booths and monitors and ball speed and guys in there that can't break 80, reading the numbers to them, thinking that's going to improve their golf game. I can't even believe what's going on. It's like a bad dream.
It really, yeah, it really is. None of that stuff. I mean, the ball tells you everything that you need. Did you
It
hit the
always
back
has.
thing, left, right, hook it, fade? I mean, what do you need some computer to tell you that it went over here? Just look at the ball. Or if, are you coming across it? Look at your divot. Are you coming down too steep? Is it a deep divot? Mo would always talk about, bacon strips, like what you're saying, the thin, almost no
Yeah,
divoters,
yeah,
picking it clean, right?
yeah. So Melhorn had a shot that he taught me when he really wanted to spin it, like zzz, and left to right. He called it the half top, half shank. So he'd have you, and believe me, it at first it was crazy, but he'd say you're going to hit this ball in the equator on the downswing, a little outside in. He called it the half top, half shank because you'd almost hit it on the toe as well. But man, does that ball spin! Do it with your 56-degree sand wedge, and you'll hit it the height of a 7-iron, and it'll go in there and take one hop and then skip to the right and just park.
So coming down kind of steep, but kind of like right in
Yeah, yeah, you're
like
picking it up a
center
little.
here, like you're gonna come
Yeah,
in, you're gonna try and hit right here
yes, with the leading edge on the downswing, not level, right, and outside in.
and outside in.
Right. Now, it was stupid when we had balata balls because I'd rip up the ball hitting that
Yeah,
shot.
yeah,
But you can't hurt these golf balls unless you land on a cart path and you scuff it. But
yeah, yeah. I think that the to me a great game is really defined by the parameters, right? I mean, like chess is a great game because the limitations of the pieces. Like if the rooks moved as queens and everything, it wouldn't be as great a game, right? If pawns could do whatever, I think it's the limitations that make a great game. And golf with its limitations, I think you need to have the gear, the ball, and the courses all in harmony for each other. So that, like I said, the 10 par fours, you got to hit some long irons. Got to hit some mid irons. Got to hit that. That's what this club is for. That's what the 2-iron is for. The 2-iron is for this.
well,
You know,
that's why I
whatever.
don't like. That's why I don't like Pete Dye's designs, and I have no respect for his designs whatsoever. He would have been a great mini golf designer, but that's it to me. Because okay, you have an island green, big deal, but his golf courses are not asking me to be creative. His golf courses is asking for one type of shot, a full high shot, target golf, and I don't care for it. It's to me, I have no respect for it.
Yeah, I my feeling is that a great golf course, I mean a great golf hole,
It will ask you to do everything.
but it should be playable under all
Balance.
possible conditions, pretty much, right?
Yes, yes,
Super
yes.
windy, wind from behind, wind from side, into the wind. If you look at some of these island greens, if you get a big gale blowing and gusting winds and all that, I mean you could hit a perfect shot and just end up in the water. I mean just because the wind just blows it in the water at no fault of your own. I'm not a big fan of a hole like that where you've got to consider.
But that island green is like Top Golf. It was designed for the amateur to go, wow, he can hit it on the island.
Yeah, I don't. I think even if you look at the 16th at Cypress, right? I mean, you can play safe to the left. You can go over there with a 5-iron or something, and then just chip it onto the green and try and get
How
up
about
and
that
down and
one
hit it
iron that
well.
Nicholas hit in the wind at the U.S. Open at Pebble?
You're not going to
That
believe
par
this.
three.
I was there. I was there.
Live?
I was there live. It was in '73, right?
Yeah,
I
72 or
was
three.
73. I
No, you
was
were like
9 years
8.
old. I
Yeah.
was 9 years old. My dad took me to the tournament, and I was just to the right of the tee box, and I saw the shot. I was there when Nicholas hit that shot and hit the pin. And I was also there when Watson chipped in out of the rough on 17. I was there live for both of
I
those.
remember watching both of them on TV, but
I don't
that,
know how many people were there for both of those.
yeah.
Maybe, probably more than just me, but not many.
And,
There might be
and
20 of us.
that's what's great. Even as when we got to the age where we wanted to be in that U.S. Open, making that shot, it's just a great place to catch a piece of history. I wish, you know where I wish I could have been? I wished I could have been there when Watson almost won the British Open at 59. I wish he held that green with that shot. He was so humble how he handled it, but to win the British Open at 59, to me, it's still a credible performance at 59, but I would have loved to have seen him get that. I felt
Yeah,
like such.
that was.
Remember, he was my favorite growing up. So even as an adult professional, I was rooting for him that event. I thought he was
Yeah, that
always a great
was.
gentleman too.
But getting back to kind of our original idea, where we're talking about kind of that golf being a game for all different shapes
Yeah,
of people, but also
yeah,
different ages, right? So you got
yeah,
Tom Watson, the British Open, he's almost 60 playing
yeah,
against guys that are 20,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and
Because the skill
what a
set
great thing.
involved in winning that British Open wasn't hitting it 300 yards. It was, do you have all the shots?
Right. I love the idea of the young, talented players coming right out of college or whatever, and he's got all this great game, but he doesn't have experience. And now he's going to go play against, say, like Lanny Watkins or something who's like 20 years older than him, who's got all the shots and all the experience, and you've got the older guy against the younger guy, the guy with the experience and all that. And I'm so glad that I played in that era. When I went on the Canadian tour and I was 23 years old, I was a rookie out there, and I'm teeing off with a guy who's 40, and he's been playing the same tournament, Alberta Open, on the same course for 17 years. I mean, this guy like knows the golf course like it's his home course, and I'm looking at this for the first time. I might have some talent, but this guy's got all the experience, right? And usually the guy with the experience would end up winning, because they knew where to hit it and they knew
You
where
want
to, not
a
hit
lot
it.
of a lot of the things I say to you are to reiterate in another way what you're saying. You keep reminding me of things when you talk. So let's go back to 1979, 1980, maybe. I don't know, in that era. A group of guys bring a young kid to the Fontainebleau and say, Sal, can you watch him play 36 holes? We're thinking about putting him on tour and backing him and sponsoring him. We want to know your
This
opinion.
is in Florida, the Fontainebleau,
Yeah, Fontainebleau
Palm
Country Club.
Beach,
Yep. No, Miami.
Miami. Okay.
So they said, will you watch him? My dad said, sure. So he watches him play 36 holes. The guy shoots 75, 76. The Fontainebleau was 7,200 yards, maybe 7,300 yards. I grew up hitting 3 and 4 irons all day. Anyway, my dad says to the group, back him. And they go, Sal, he just shot over par both rounds. Back him. The kid knows how to manage his golf ball. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. The guy's name was Mike Donald.
Yeah, I remember Mike Donald.
Now, gets funnier. Fast forward, I'm playing Mike Donald for a couple of hundred at Key Biscayne in Miami. He was from Hollywood. He wasn't far away, right? We're on a par five, and the previous hole's tee box is next to the par five's green. So when you're teeing off on the one hole, if you look to your right, there's the par five green that you're going to be coming back. Anyway, we get to the par five. I hit driver 3-wood right up under the bunker. Donald hits driver 4-iron, parks his wedge about a foot. I can't stop my pitch because I'm too close to the green. Donald studied the pin when he was on the tee box of the previous hole. That's the difference. Donald didn't hit it better than me on that hole. He outsmarted me. He was a thinker and managing his ball properly. And that's why my father said back him, because he always had that ability. Too bad Hale Irwin made that 60-footer and stole the U.S. Open from him.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
He lost the playoff. But I never heard about him after that. That broke his heart, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of Corey Pavin going up against a Greg Norman, short hitter, straight to a guy who just,
Hitting a forward at the Open at Shinnecock.
having someone like that being able to compete against the long hitters or the younger guys against the older players. Tom Watson being a perfect example of that at 59. I mean, that's good for golf. It's good for the press. It's
Yeah,
interesting stories,
sure.
keeping everybody in it. I don't, this
Yeah.
whole idea that, you've got to hit it 300 yards. I was out fishing on the boat. My friend's got a fishing boat, and we're out in the San Francisco Bay, and there was another golf pro on the boat, and he's the golf coach at one of the colleges, and he says that it's pretty typical now that they don't even recruit kids unless they can hit it 300 yards. like coming out of high school. It's like if you can't hit 300, we're not even going to give you a scholarship. We're not even going to look at you.
Look how that's changed.
But how is
So
that good for the game?
the head coach at Northwestern followed me around the Orange Bowl Classic when I was in high school. I didn't know he was the head coach at Northwestern. He was in plain clothes, but he came up to me after my tournament and he said, "Hey, Mike, is that your Mike?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You could do anything you want to a golf ball, can't you?" I said, "Yeah." That was his statement, and that was what he was impressed with. He never talked about my driving or how far I hit it or anything. He said, "You could do anything you want to a golf ball." He made an offer. My dad elected to keep me in Miami under his thumb at FIU, but it was nice that somebody in the college coaching world was recognizing ball striking and control. To your point that you're they're looking for, I don't care if I am not impressed if you hit it 320, 340. You know what I want to know? What are you going to do when I got a left to right wind and the pin is on the right side of the green and there's a bunker and your lie is a little bit like this and you need three? What kind of shot are you going to play? That's what would impress me if you made the right decision in that circumstance. Not that you can blast at 320. I care nothing about it. You can hit it 280 and win. 270.
When the Canadian Tour was an interesting place to play because generally the courses were tight. It was there,
Yeah.
courses were
Yeah.
narrow. I mean,
Like
Wolf Creek,
Westchester and
I mean, it
Wingfoot.
was just like
Yeah.
there was the. I still
I
have
love that.
nightmares sometimes about the fourth hole at Wolf Creek. It was a little dogleg left par four that went through a chute of pines like this. It was about 430 yards. Guys would hit 5 irons off the tee because it was so narrow to just try and get it through. You had a hazard on the right, and if you hit it left, you were just in like grass that was 6 feet tall or whatever. I mean, it was so narrow, and you know it was a frightening shot. I mean, even
Yeah.
with a 5 iron in your hand, it was like if I
So
make any kind of bad swing here,
so
and
you're
there
going
were
back.
always
You're
three
you're
groups on
doing
the
it
tee.
again.
There were guys making triples and quads, and it was just it was just great. Really, when looking back at that, it was such a test of
No, that's
skill,
awesome.
confidence.
That's awesome. But you did it again. You said something that made me think. Because you wanted to talk about Bill. So Bill would say to me in that circumstance, "Why would you hit a 5 iron?" Respecting the narrowness of a hole, Bill thought, was taking a driver, choking it down, and making a half backswing, half a follow through, and hit it the same distance as the 5 iron would go. But the respect for the narrowness is showing respect is moving smaller, where you have less chance of hitting it offline. It's staying lower under the trees as well, and you're going to keep your balance. If you're making a full swing with a 5 iron, now you're hitting it way up in the air, and if you mishit it, it's spending more time in the air. So Bill was funny about that. If you were scared or respectful of the narrowness of a hole, he was insistent on hitting a less lofted club with a smaller action rather than going to get a 5 wood or a 4 iron and making a full blown shot.
This particular hole, it was a sharp dog leg left, and if you hit a 3 iron
A
or
runner.
something, 1 iron off the tee, you could run it through the fairway right into the hazard.
Okay.
So it was really you kind of had to hit it through the chute and then kind of try and draw it a little bit, like just inch it
So more
around.
narrow than 18 at Augusta? Even more narrow
Oh,
than that?
oh, half the size, half the third, a third of it.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
crazy.
just, I mean, it was so narrow. There were lots of golf courses up there that were like that, and the guys that would win the Order of Merit up there, it was always some guy that just hit it straight. Jerry Anderson, I don't know if you remember that name, Canadian
I don't.
player, great player. Won the Order of Merit there. I think he had the record on the European Tour, the European Masters. I think he shot like 26 under or something. And I didn't even know who he was. This was back in the 80s. I was on that tour in 1987, and I show up, and there's all these guys that I've never heard of. I've never heard of any of these guys. And there's guys shooting 64, 65s, back to back, 66, 64. Like, who's this guy? And it'd be like some 40-year-old guy that's been on the tour for 15 years or something or longer that I had never heard of, but you know they're not on TV, right? they're not on. There's Golf World, and it would kind of cover some of these events, but you didn't really know. I wasn't subscribing to that magazine, in college or anything. You didn't know these people. I go down to um, Australia, and Peter Senior is down there, right? And Peter Senior, I show up, and he wins 3 tournaments in a row. He wins the Australian Open, wins the Johnny Walker and the Palmettos. I think it was those 3 tournaments, or the Australian PGA. But he wins 3 tournaments in a row. And Greg Norman's in the field, and Faldo's down there, and all these guys. It's like I never even heard of this guy, and he's wiping the #1 player in the world, just wiping him out as a low ball hitter. This guy hit it like this high off the ground. Peter Senior just comes to the States and doesn't really do so well, right?
Because of all the
Because
because
yeah, it didn't have the kind of game,
yeah,
to
go to Long Island. Go to Long Island,
stadium courses.
the South Shore of Long Island, and you look at the tracks and the architectural designs on the South Shore, and then look at the tracks all along the North Shore of the whole island. And if you look at, I didn't do anything special in Long Island except qualified for the State Open a bunch of times, the Met Open a bunch of times. But every time I qualified for something, they took us over the bridge. You weren't allowed a practice round. Now you're in the mountains. You don't know the greens. You know that horror story. And if you're not raised in that area, you don't know the tracks. Got some
So
great players in it. You
were
got
you in
great
New
players,
York?
but what I
Were
wanted
you
to
in New
say
York
is
in the early '90s?
the architecture along the South Shore of Long Island was much like Florida. Like more linksy, flat, the greens level with the fairway. When you went to the North Shore, you got hidden fairways. You can't see the green from the tee box. You're walking up to the green and it looks like it's sloping to the front. You get up on the green, you think you have an uphill putt. You're really downhill. You hit it, it's 10 feet by. All that crazy crap that I didn't endure growing up is on the North Shore. And then when you go over the bridge in Westchester, you get all that funny stuff. I had a 2-under at the Buick Open Monday qualifier at the turn and 3-putted my way out of that qualifier because I couldn't read the greens.
So were you living in New York then?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
were you like late '80s, early '90s?
No, no. Here's what happened. We were talking about burnout. I wanted to take a break from flying out of Miami into South America or the Caribbean and, going to every mini tour event you can find from Miami to Chicago. So Bill Skelly, whose teaching method I didn't approve of, but he asked if I would help a couple of guys and go up to run his school in the Poconos back in 91. And I went up there, and when the session was over, I was about to head back to Miami, and Hurricane Andrew swept Miami away. I met somebody in the Poconos that was interested in a training aid that I had patented, and an LPGA Teacher of the Year named it the best teaching aid of the year, but nobody really bought into it because it wasn't about hitting the ball farther. It was about how to chip and putt better. So it wasn't a grand seller. But anyway, I accidentally got rerouted in New York, where I was born, and left when I was 5 with my dad when he left New York. And I didn't mean to stay there. And I ended up with, several different golf schools. And I actually joined the Mets section. I didn't want to be in the PGA. I really care nothing about the PGA, and I have no respect for them anymore. But at the time, I was hungry to compete, and there was just nothing to play in unless you were in a section. So that's why I got into the PGA up there.
So what was it like, playing was it the JC Goosey tour down there, the Space
Yeah,
Coast tour?
yeah. The
What was
Goose.
it like playing that tour? What was a typical
Well,
week? There were multiple tournaments in a week, or there were one or
no,
two
no. It
regulars?
was
What's
no.
all
It
about?
was It was pretty much almost every Monday and Tuesday a 2-day event. Entry fee was really steep, and it was very top heavy. If you didn't top five it, you were lucky if you got your money back.
So
Um,
what were the entry fees back then?
if I remember correctly, they were anywhere 3, 4, 500,
Yeah.
in that area. And then you
Were
had your
were they getting
hotel.
full fields?
Always,
Full fields, yeah.
always.
Oh, okay.
What was nice is they had second day money you can enter. So like at Hunter's Creek, I think I shot 76, and then I won second day money shooting 71. I beat Jim Dent was in my group, and I beat him. Um, that's where I used to see Greg Norman practicing a lot. But it was like this: you're in Miami, you want to be on the PGA Tour. There's no Corn Ferry, there's no Hogan Tour at the time or any of that crap.
That's right.
It's gambling and
Yeah.
saving your money to try to get to Jamaica or South America or a big event in Jacksonville or Nashville or Chicago. But the weekly thing, if you could play, you would try to go up there and win the 5 grand first place, you know?
So it was
And
about 5 grand first
it
place.
was about five, yeah.
So you got 100 guys throwing in $500. You got
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it was great experience because here's what I learned about my game. I would often open up strong and I wasn't able to bring it home. I was like 24, 25, and my dad took me aside and he says, "All right, look, you need a go-to shot, a shot that you normally wouldn't hit that you know you can hit." He said, "Because unfortunately, Mike, you want this too badly. So you're in your own way. And when you're in contention to win, you're just trying too hard. You're not letting it happen. So I want you to work on a go-to shot." So my go-to shot ended up being a choke down, two extra clubs, and I would box it out like I'd aim 10 yards left of my pin, and just know that it was going to fade. When if it didn't do it in the air, it did it when it landed. So I developed that shot, and I was able to start coming back strong. And in Miami, I won about 5 weeks in a row in a little Miami Opens, and I was impressed with that myself because I tried to talk myself out of it. I was at the Country Club Miami about to win the fifth one in a row. Oh, it's actually the Biltmore, and I went out in 40. It was a 1 day event, and somebody said he's not going to win this week. I heard the spectators say that as I went to the tee, and I came back in 30 just to piss that guy off, and won by a shot.
So
So
those
little,
would run. How many months of the year would those tournaments run?
there was like it was a really a winter series most of the
Yeah,
time
winter series. Yeah.
because that's when he'd get his full fields because the guys from up north would come down.
So it's kind of like what December,
I'd
January,
say like
February.
October through late winter,
Okay.
and then then you would try to go south to the Caribbean and South America in the other months. You were just looking for events to play in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's you talk
That's
about a journey. I heard about a tournament called the Ted Rhodes Open. I went to that. I heard about a tournament in Chicago, the Joe Louis Open, in a dangerous part of Chicago. I drove from Miami to there to get that purse, and ended up staying in Chicago for 3 months. And I have friends I made that week to this day. That was in 1989. So
did you have were there guys sleeping in their cars and stuff, that kind of thing?
I did. I
Yeah.
slept in my car in Chicago until
Right
one of
on.
the fans, one of the spectators said, "Will you stay in Chicago and teach me and my friends?" And he let me stay in his house. So I paid my rent. I painted his house. I worked at his concession stand that he had. He had the concession at Columbus Park, and then he's my dear friend to this day. But I stayed up there because I wanted to experience Chicago, and then I played in the St. Charles Open in Illinois. You're like a rolling stone. You just want to go wherever you hear about a tournament,
Yeah,
and
I
you
mean,
stay on.
it's a real love of the game stuff. It's a real
I
love of the
left
game.
Miami with $500 and my golf bag and a full tank of gas, and I stay on the road as long as I can.
Right. Yeah.
There was a guy
Uh,
named Joe Roach who was Jan Stevenson's caddy, and he was the National Black Open champion in the 50s when blacks weren't allowed on tour. He was a fine champion, and I knew him as a gambler in Miami. And he'd ask for the red tees, and he would bury guys because he could really play, even when he had the gray hair and everything. And he took a liking to my game, and I remember him working me out around the greens at the Biltmore, and him saying to me, "Do you hear about this kid in California named Tiger Woods? He's about 13 years old. He hits it like 300 yards." And I'm like, "No, Joe, I've never heard of him. Can we work on my game, please?" And I remember hearing about Tiger like that, amongst the people. But Joe would say, "Come on, we're going to jump in the car and go up to Okeechobee, Florida." I said, "Joe, what's in Okeechobee except sugarcane?" He goes, "They got a couple of golf courses where them sugarcane guys like to play for a lot of money. So I'm backing you. Let's go. Don't show your ass till I tell you." So we played that game. Anything to get money. And the whole goal is to get enough money to get on the road.
yeah, just keep
Because
going. Just to keep
sponsors, are funny. They want to back you after you win a tour event when you don't need them anymore. So
going. Right.
I never had the opportunity, and neither did Trevino, and he didn't, he made it happen. But I never had that opportunity when someone said, here's a year's worth of action. Here's your expense money. I never got that chance. It was always gotta win, gotta win, gotta win.
Yeah.
So
Well, we should probably wrap it up, but I'll
you
tell
you,
you what,
you
it's been a
think
real
that was two and a
pleasure.
half hours?
Yeah, it's been a great
I
pleasure to
enjoyed it
speak with
thoroughly.
you and to yeah, we're definitely kind of kindred spirits coming out of the same little pea pod on opposite sides of the country. Just kind of shows the consciousness of golf really could permeate all the way to so many places.
There
And
must be other fellas that feel the way we do about the education going on and about the equipment being used. There's got to be
yeah,
more.
I want to start talking to some of these guys too, and I'm sure you will as well. And because a lot of this knowledge, I worry about it getting lost, because the
Well, I
kind of
know
knowledge
that when I
we have
die,
about the game is, when we're gone, I think it's just
no,
gone.
yeah, I'm
So we've got to keep it alive, and I'm kind of in the belief that the spirit of the game, the true spirit of the game, lies in the persimmon and blade and balata. That's how those great courses were designed. That's the gear. That's the correct chess pieces on the
there is a
table.
group of guys that you would enjoy talking to on my Instagram. Mr. Clean is one of them. They go deeper than what you're going. They only play hickory.
Yeah, I know
They're
that
trying to
the
they're trying to
the
preserve it.
hickory thing that I've seen, they do have these hickory events, right? And that sort of thing. But it seems like a lot of it is very kind of nostalgia. Like you drive a
Yeah,
classic car up and you wear the
right,
knickers and you go out with the
right. It's a
hickories
whole
and all
thing.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that kind of thing. But I think there, I look at it, I think of golf as there's been three eras, right? You've got the hickory era, you got the persimmon and blade and balata era,
that's the
and now you have
biggest
the
error.
super golf era, right? Whatever we want to call this with the frying pan
Super Bowl.
dryers,
Remember the Super Bowls?
the like super golf, balls going
Yeah.
350 yards and all that.
Yeah.
So while you have the hickory guys, I think the classic era of the game that we enjoyed with the persimmon blades and balata, that era, it has been really overlooked at this point. There are no tournaments to play in. We did a few events 2010, 11, 12. We put on some persimmon and blade events down in Las Vegas, and we did, I think, three of them. And we just rolled it back to where it's like, okay, these are professional events with money. And the rules were you have to play persimmon, you have to play blades. And the best ball we could find at that time, I think, was like the Strixon soft field ball. It's still a hard ball, not a great ball, but it wasn't the juiced up ball. And we were back hitting it all 250 again. And the thing that was interesting about that event is that all the guys that this was in 2000, like let's say 10, 11, 12. So a lot of the older guys that had played persimmon that are now playing modern gear, right? But now they're back playing persimmon for this one event. I hadn't played a tournament in 13 years. Okay. So I retired in 93. It was a longer than, what am I saying? It was longer than that. It was like 17 years that I hadn't played a tournament, and I went out and won the tournament by 7 shots. And I hadn't played a tournament in 17 years. Now I'm not doing that to glorify myself. The point is that because I never left persimmon, right? I was always a persimmon player. These guys that were persimmon players that had great golf swings and won all kinds of tournaments, that then played the modern gear, the lightweight gear, their golf swings started to deteriorate because they're not swinging a heavy club, and they start flipping it with their arms and hands because they got a pencil in their hands like this. They're just going like this. They go back to persimmon and blades, and they can't play anymore.
What's the modern ball doing to your inserts?
Nothing. It's not a problem. I'm not. I'm not. Well, I've got a gamma fire, so it's not doing anything there. I'm not pounding, hundreds of golf balls. I only use my clubs to play golf, right? So I'm not. I'm not sitting there on a driving range hitting,
I got you.
300 hard balls, right? Those are
I
just my
got you.
my playing clubs. But I just thought it was interesting that I could go out and beat all these guys when I hadn't been playing at all.
Yeah, there was no adjustment
No
for you.
tournament, right? And so we were trying to drum up some money and get some sponsors and see if we could, maybe do 10 events, maybe do like $100,000 tournaments that are persimmon and blade events.
I'd be very interested in joining you.
Yeah, I mean, we're there. There's still talk about it. We still have some people, that show interest in that. I did actually. We were proposing to do an actual serious tour, Persimmon and Blades tour. I had three people that came with big money people, and that I actually went to have meetings with, and I had a business plan and the whole thing. We actually had Dean Beeman on the phone, and we were talking to Dean about
Oh, the
this, and
guy
he
that ruined the PGA Tour. Okay.
yeah, so Dean was all on board. He thought it was a great idea to go back to persimmon and blades because at this time in 2012 or whatever, he saw what had happened to the game and he was like, yeah, it would be great. Barkow was on the phone. We were talking about it. We had this investor in Chicago that was going to put up a couple $1 million to seed money to get the thing started, and we had three stabs at it. Three different people came. Two of them backed out because of their wives supposedly said, honey, aren't you getting a little old to be doing another crazy thing like this? You lost $1 million on that golf course over in the UK or whatever. The wife said no. They were in their 70s, and those three deals fell through. And at that
Those are the
point, I
two
just,
people that kill deals: lawyers and wives.
yeah, lawyers. That's right. So I think it's still possible. It's just a money thing because the USGA does not own the game of golf. Okay. So let's say you and I were to start a new organization and we just call it the professional golf tour. These are the rules. It's big league golf. Here's a piece of persimmon. These are the irons you're going to play. This is the ball you're going to play. And there's the prize money. The
I'm
USGA
in.
can't stop us from doing that.
I'm in.
There's nothing they can do.
No,
So
nobody could stop. Nobody
no,
could stop it.
it's just a money thing. All it is put up a purse. I mean, you can buy a golf course. You can say we're going to rent the
Yeah.
course for a week. We got to
Yep.
pay you what, 50 grand or whatever for the golf
Yeah.
course or whatever.
Uh,
Um, you rent the course. You put out entry fees. You get a sponsor. Someone to put up 100 grand or whatever in prize money. Keep the entry fees down for maybe a couple $100 just to pay basic things for some light staffing and give a little some pizzas for the volunteers or whatever. But something along those lines, and then just roll the game back to proper parameters. I don't think it's retro or classic. I think it's just proper so that the gear and the courses line up so that the
is
ball
it
goes where it's supposed to on the golf course.
right
And I think the young
for
kids
the
would
design? Right.
also.
For the design. Yep. And what about? Are we sticking with steel shafts?
You know, all of those things could be negotiated, but I think the main thing is really the driver, more than anything. It's really getting the ball so it's back to, the short hitters are hitting at 240, the long hitters are hitting at 270, and just get it back to that. And then whatever people want to do with the irons, I don't know. I
You know what I'm
mean,
saying? There's going to be some pros that they'll say, okay, I'll play persimmon, but I want a graphite shaft.
I found the graphite shaft in a persimmon didn't. What did it do? It gave you an extra
Well,
5 yards.
well, back then they couldn't control the torque, so you'd hit it
Yeah,
crooked.
yeah. I mean, what's it gonna? What are you gonna get? An extra 5 yards? Not that much, right? I mean, the ball's going 50 yards farther now than it used to. 50 yards, not 5 yards. Um, 5 yards. Whatever shaft. I think the club restrictions would be 44 inches in length. As far as the hitting area of the club face, if you said the classic persimmon drivers are 3 inches wide and 1 3/4 inches high.
So my
Right,
father's driver, he played in the '60s. We couldn't use. It's a jumbo deep face.
2 inches. So let's say you go 3 inches wide, 2 inches high. That's it. That's the limit. That's the limit of the face. And you say the driver, it can't be less than 13 ounces or
Yeah, he
13 and a
made me
half ounces.
smile because I have my father's driver from the '60s in the garage, and it will be played if you have that event. I will be playing that driver.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just I mean, baseball has equipment restrictions. I mean, the bat has to be, it can't just be this big around. You can't, it's got to be.
The
There's
integrity of the
dimensions.
game's been protected in baseball
Yeah,
and
they've done a
cricket, like
good
you
job.
told me.
And cricket, the other stick and ball game, that's a wood. Those are the three big stick and ball games. Cricket's the biggest, baseball second, golf third. The
So what
top two
about?
is cricket,
We didn't
and
talk about tennis. You know, when McEnroe would play, and it was a wood frame, and it
yeah,
was a very small frame.
yeah,
Now they're giant and they're graphite and they're light, and the sweet
yeah.
spot's huge.
Yeah, the same thing. The game of tennis. I'm not a tennis player, but I know tennis players that say the game they don't feel the game's been protected. It's gotten just way out of hand with the serves are just so you don't have
Yeah,
the
it's like
volleys like they used to
there's
have.
no more matches. It's just a serving contest.
Yeah, it's a serving contest, which isn't that interesting, I don't think. So I think golf, it's really just a matter of having events where you just have the gear, the equipment that matches the golf course. And I've made the comparison to like if you were to play volleyball on a tennis court, right? You could play volleyball on a tennis court. You could play tennis on a volleyball court with a high net, but I mean it's not designed for that, right? They had it right. Volleyball like this with the bigger ball over the high net, right? If you were doing it on
Oh, I
a,
get it. I get it. I get it.
it's like it
I
just
think
needs
everybody gets it.
it needs to match up. The equipment, the ball, the equipment needs to match the playing field. Basketball, the ball needs to match the hoop. Football, the football needs to match the end zone. It's 100 yard. They could soccer. The fields are wider, right? It's
My
a
other
wider
my
field than
other concern, yeah,
football, right?
my other concern is the course records that were set with steel and persimmon and balatas that
Those
are
records
being,
should remain
yes,
as persimmon records. What's the persimmon record? Like if I show up at a golf course and I walk in the
right,
pro shop and I'm
right,
like, "What's the persimmon record out here?" Oh, well, you know, Scott Burns shot 63 here in 1978 or whatever.
right,
Okay, all right. Well,
right.
I'm going to go after that today or whatever. Course records. Yeah, I feel bad for the people that shot course records with
That's what I'm
persimmon and
saying.
blades that now a kid goes out there and hits it 50 yards farther and then breaks somebody's course record that someone it's
Yeah,
so disrespectful to the past
yeah.
generation.
The first
It's so
hole at the
disrespectful.
first hole at the Fontainebleau, it was driver 5 iron for me. I'm quite sure today it would be driver sandwich.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, Torrey Pines, the first hole of Torrey Pines, and I played in Junior World and I played the Aztec, the collegiate events down there. And that first hole was if you killed a drive, you might hit a 3 iron in or something. If you missed it a little bit,
So
you're coming over with a 3 wood. Well, now
so
you
the,
watch that tournament, they're hitting wedges in.
right. So the first hole, it was a slight dog leg to the right, and starting from the right rough, a bunker came across diagonally where the hole turned. If if you wanted to try and hit a big one and carry that bunker, you can catch the downslope of the bunker and maybe have a 7 in or something, right? But most people would have to aim left of the bunker in case it rolled into it. In other words, the architecture was built for what you're saying. The distance of a driver is anywhere from 250 to 280. My dad won the long drive contest in 1967 with 272 against the wind, and he beat George Bear that day. That was one of his favorite stories.
I just think the consciousness of golf just
Yeah.
it just needs to be rebooted and reset. I think, and at some kind of a professional or elite level. I mean, a second tour, a Persimmon Blade Tour, wouldn't have to be the same money as a PGA Tour if it was just enough to where maybe a young kid that he only hits a 240, but he wants to make a living playing golf. He can't do that now. But on a tour like this, you might have that kid maybe becomes the new Jeff Lewis. You know what I mean? He's the guy that dominates the Persimmon and Blade Tour. I think it would be a different set of players. It'd be a different set of guys that, um, it's kind of like some of these other sports that, like auto racing, right? I mean, look at all the different kinds of, you got the Indy cars, you got the Formula One, you got the stock car
Another
racing,
another brilliant point. I never thought of that.
auto racing. So it's like, if you're a Formula One guy, does that mean you're going to be a great Indy guy? You know what I mean? Not necessarily. You might, but you might not. I mean, the Formula One guy that goes racing the Indy might just get his butt kicked over there because he doesn't really know how to drive the Indy cars.
So
Like some other guy
the
does.
bottom line is, I would like a golf course for today's tour that tests every part of the game and doesn't reward. If you're a great putter and you are mediocre at everything else, you can win on the PGA Tour. Years ago, you had to have it all.
Yeah. Yeah, you had to
That's the
have it
bottom
all.
line.
When I went on the Canadian tour, I I hit 68 out of 72 greens. I missed 4 greens the whole tournament, and I was never under 30 putts in any round, and I shot 17 under. And I was never on a par 5 and 2 the whole week, not once. I had no free birdies, no 2 putt birdies. I earned every single one of those birdies that I made. I made 24 birdies that week, earned them all with iron shots into greens, making birdies, and I'm proud of that. You know, I can take that to my grave.
You should not only be proud of that, that should be spoken about because that's a phenomenal amount of greens in regulation.
Yeah, I mean, I hit 18 greens the first day. It wasn't uncommon for me to hit 16, 17 greens. I hit it really good the first day. I hit all 18 greens. The second day I hit 17 greens. The third day I hit 17 greens. And the last day I missed the first green and the ninth green because I was nervous.
But you also are driving the ball good to be able to do that because
Well,
the
yeah,
rough
yeah,
was very
drive it straight.
penalizing
You had
then.
to drive it straight. I'm in the Canadian tour. You had to hit it straight. I mean, if you were crooked up there, forget it.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
can't hit that many greens
if you
missing
were hitting
fairways.
50% of your fairways on the Canadian tour, you'd never make a cut. You'd never make a cut up there. Now you see guys, on the PGA Tour, you look at the stats, there's guys that hit 50% of the fairways and win the tournament.
Yeah,
I
they
saw
suck.
Phil Mickelson doing that. One tournament, he hit like 42% of the fairways and won a tournament.
Yeah, there's nobody out there impressing me except this kid Colin by you, um, Colin Muck or something. He's about 80%. I think he's the leader in accuracy.
Is he hitting it straight? Yeah. Yeah, well, Scotty Scheffler's doing something right. I don't know. I mean, the modern game, he's dominating, and I think that's great. I just look at it; it's just a
I'll
different game.
talk about.
There's nothing wrong with it, but I just
I
don't
have
think
to.
that the old game should be just thrown under the bus and just gotten rid
I
of.
have to say goodnight, but I'll tell you what Scotty's doing right. Let's not even talk about his stability mentally and his grounding with family and God. His arms are always in front of him on the backswing and the follow through. That's what he's doing right.
Losing light. You're in the dark, and okay, this is perfect for let's. One last thing before we go, for all you flat earthers out there,
Yeah,
people that believe the Earth is flat. Okay,
right.
if the Earth is flat and the sun goes below the horizon of that flat Earth, it's going to be dark at the same time across the Earth. So if it's dark where you're at and it's light where I'm at, the Earth is not flat, is it?
Duh.
It's not. It can't
No,
be. It
no,
can't be. So
no.
you and I right now are proving flat Earth is not correct. It's dark in Florida.
Yeah, no.
It's
It's
still light in California.
it's 9:40 here. It's been dark for a while.
Yeah. So I'm in the sun. You're in the dark. The Earth has to be
So
curved for that to happen.
I was happy to talk to you for a few hours, almost 3. I'm gonna eat some dinner. It's 9:40, and then I got to get to sleep.
Okay, sounds great.
And I
Let's stay
guess
in touch.
yeah,
And
and we'll cut this up into like 6 pieces,
yeah,
or
sounds great.
5 pieces, or 3 pieces.
Okay, Mike, it's been great.
All right, we'll
We'll see
talk
you
on the
soon.
phone more too. Okay,
You
let's
bet.
stay in touch.
You
Thank you.
bet.